someone's in there. I don't know if they see that when they get in.
Yep, but we're up and broadcasting, so I can send a thing, right?
Again, my point is I don't know if people see text
Until they get
until they get in.
Gotcha.
There's only one way to wake up in the morning. How the heck are you? Yep, that's it. Miller.
This could end the bro hug. That would be great for you because there is nobody worse at the bro hug than one David Moulton.
And Moulton.
I used to be. 2019, I found my bro hug group.
Southwest Florida's Fox Sports Radio.
All guests appear on the Goldberg Noon Abraham hotline. Goldberg-law.com.
It's up to you now.
My chat room's not working.
Now, the best local sports show this town has ever heard. Here's Miller and Moulton.
You're live.
How the heck are you? Miller and Moulton on this Tuesday, the 12th of May. Thanks so much for being with us. Southwest Florida's Fox Sports Radio. We are streaming. Boy, are we ever.
It's what we do. We stream.
FoxSportsFM.com. We stream. We broadcast. You are looking and listening live on the Miller and Moulton YouTube and Twitch TV channels. Mark, top of the morning to you. How are you?
I'm good. Had a good start of the week.
I got a lot of sleep last night, a lot more than I normally get. I was asleep before 10. That's early for me. I mean, and I even slept in an extra 10 minutes. I had my starting 5 done before I went to bed. So I treated myself, Mark. I reset the alarm from 5:01 to 5:12.
Did you do that at 5:01?
No. I did it last night.
Okay.
Oh, no. I said, look at this. I can sleep in. I don't have to put my little, starting 5 together. I already got it. Yeah.
Yeah, I had a interesting discussion yesterday with my wife because she has decided that she wants to work out a little bit again. And whatever. You want to work out, you don't want to work out. I don't give a damn.
Right.
But
right. We're married. I love you.
Right. But she worked out on the weekend. And I will say, for anybody who ever has done any sort of exercise, you feel better after. It's just getting your ass to do it's the hard part. But
right.
no one's ever
before, feel better after.
Right. No one's ever finished. Oh God, I feel terrible. I should have never done that. You always go, man, I wish I did this every day. So of course, yesterday the wife decides she's going to get up.
Right.
She starts hitting the snooze button.
There you
and
go.
And then gives me the old, hey, are you going to get up? Hey, I do this every morning. Yes, I'm going to get up. I have not needed your help in the 2+ years we've been doing mornings, and I don't need it this morning.
Right.
I get up at whatever time I want to get up here at a proper time. And most days, it's between 5 and 5:15. Occasionally, like you extend it. Yesterday was one of those 5:25ers. I woke up at 3:30 in the morning and said, I want every bit of sleep I can get. I set the latest alarm that I have for mornings. And then I got well, that's late to get up. Once again, you started sleeping until 6 when this whole pandemic came. Leave me alone.
Hey. I love you and all. You take care of you. I'll take care of me.
Right.
We got this thing figured out. I got my school lesson all set.
Not like I got to watch any highlights before 6 a.m.
No.
Or read a score.
No.
Or chase a box score down to see why a team blew a 3-run lead in the 8th.
Nope.
Not necessary right now.
It's all good right now. After July 4th, maybe I got to check some things. Not now.
Maybe. And who knows what we'll have to check. I watched Real Sports yesterday on HBO. It happened to be on, and I caught the second story because when I looked at, the info button, they were going to have Mike Breen and Jim Nantz and Joe Buck.
Okay.
And they did, the 4-corner shot that we're all used to seeing from people's living rooms. I thought your buddy Joe was pretty funny when he said, I really appreciate my return to HBO, and I'm free for the next 7 hours, even if this segment only is 15 minutes. And please don't tell my wife that I'm going to be down here for 6 or 7 hours. But they were all, kind of supposing when things were going to happen.
Right.
And the final question was asked, is there a part of you that thinks you don't broadcast another game in 2020? And Joe immediately went, yes. He goes, how can you watch the news? How do you go to bed at night and not at least have that enter into your mind? And Breen said this, Breen, basically echoed what Joe said. And Nance said, no, not once. Nance has kind of loaded himself, and he just says, I just have faith that we're going to get through this. And I can't go to bed at night thinking I'm not going to do games.
Now, in Nance's case, though, he's got golf in a month.
And he's
and he's pretty sure that the PGA Tour is not going to put a halt to what they're doing, that at the very least they're going to try. So I think Jim's pretty confident. Well, I'm going to be in Fort Worth. Or did they get into where they think they'll be broadcasting from?
Well, they talked about that. Will they be broadcasting from home? And all of them, and it's so funny, and David, I think, if your wife would have watched, she would have just looked at you and shaken her head and went, I get it. If she didn't get it before, having 3 of the best play-by-play people on the planet right now. I mean, regardless of what you think, there's certainly 3 of the top 10 guys out there on everybody's board. They all said, if they tell me to go somewhere, I'm just going to go where they tell me to go.
Yep.
And
it's good to hear the big boys say it.
And they did, to a man. No, Fox tells me where to go, I'm just going to go. And Breen says, yep. Nance says, yep. And I got the biggest kick out of that as someone, it's been a while since I've done play-by-play, but I've done thousands of games in hockey. And where's the game at? I don't know, wherever the bus stops. And, you've been doing this where you've got to get a little discombobulated between Thursday and Sunday with 3 flights, 3 venues. And I'm not saying you're doing Spinal Tap, yelling hello, Chicago and Detroit. But I'm sure there are weekends you go, where am I again when you wake up in the morning?
Well, my understanding, like this Sunday, Fox is broadcasting the NASCAR race in Darlington, South Carolina. My understanding is the talent and the producer for the race are in the Fox studios in Charlotte, that they're not on site, and that graphics and some other things are being done out of the Fox studios in Los Angeles. And then obviously you will have camera people and some audio people that are on site. But that my understanding is, and could be wrong, could have gotten bad information, is that that's how the initial, hey, this is how we're going to do it. And I know for a fact that the networks are trying to figure out, Mark, we talked about this probably a month or so ago when we were talking about if these leagues start back up. And my thought especially was that the leagues were going to say to the networks, well, here's the deal. We're going to take care of us, but you got to take care of you. And that means you do whatever testing you need to do. But so help me, we cannot have a coronavirus outbreak because you didn't hold up your end of the deal. And that's when, I went on that walk for an hour and I was figuring out how many tests you'd have to do if you tested everybody who normally comes on site for every single game that you do. And then we got into, but will you bring everybody on site? I mean, it was not this past college basketball season. It even started late in the 2018 or 2019 college basketball season, in which announcers started doing games from studios. And there would only be about 6 to 8 people that were on site, the camera people and maybe a producer and a director. And, for some of these smaller basketball games, and that's it. And they wouldn't travel the announcers, no airfare, no hotel, no rental cars, nothing. You just come to the studio. We'll put the games up on the monitors. You just sit here in a booth. I mean, it's how a lot of people do demos. I mean, Gary told me how, and he's told the story before about how he got his start. They brought him into a room. All right. I don't know who he did it with. And they sat him down. And, you know, he was, I think, a year removed from playing in the NFL with the Browns. And they sat him down and they put a game up. And they said, okay, here's your headset. And, you know, make 10 minutes to put whatever notes together you got. And boom, go. And he obviously did well enough to hire him on the spot. But so that's how these games could very well be done this year. I mean, Joe and Troy could be in the Fox studios in Los Angeles. I have no idea where I'll be. My guess is I would then have to be in Los Angeles, but I got to be honest, for the info that I give, it would be much better if I was on site. I can see a lot more on site than I can in the booth.
But can they give you an all 22, and that's really the only camera you're looking? I mean, what we're getting a little way behind the curtain, but that's what'll happen.
The difficult thing would be, can they set it up where in real time I can be standing in the booth with a headset communicating with Troy?
Absolutely. I think the graphic stuff and a lot of that, frankly, could be done off-site. They're in a truck. They don't see the damn game. I mean, there's a whole crew of people that don't see the game. They're inside of a truck working their tails off.
Right.
Don't make mistake that they're not working hard, but they don't have to be on site to do that job. I just think from a timeliness standpoint, it's probably easier that they're there.
Yeah, the game's up on a monitor in the truck. Well, you could be in that same monitor in a studio in Los Angeles or Charlotte or wherever.
But it's probably about a second and a half delay for that replay to get to the talent. And that's a timing issue. I mean, that's
right
deep behind the curtain, but that's about what the difference would be.
But, I mean, that's my understanding as to how Fox is doing the NASCAR race on Sunday. And if I'm giving out bad information, I apologize. But my understanding is the talent and the producer are going to be, and by talent I mean announcers, they're going to be in Charlotte. And you're going to have the people that Mark was talking about in the truck. Well, the truck's essentially going to be in L.A. And then you're going to have the people on site, the camera people and the audio people and what have you. So, and the pit reporters, they'll obviously be on site. So that's limiting the number of people that will be at the racetrack. And I didn't ask and have not been told any information about testing. You know, I have no idea. Is NASCAR doing the testing? Is Fox doing the testing? I would guess that at the very least people are having their temperatures taken. I mean, but I have no idea, and I haven't inquired. I mean, you know, it's not my thing. You know, I'm worried about whether or not the U.S. Amateur and the U.S. Women's Amateur are going to take place in mid-August. You know, that's my first work potentially, and then preseason football in the season.
And my only question is, do I need a 1, 2, or 3 page resume for you, David, when they need bodies? Because they are going to need bodies. There is too much going on for bodies not to be needed. You know,
well, it is true. If all these sports actually start, all right, then it's going to be a lot of people working at once.
Well, that was the one thing Nant said at the end of it. He said, hey, you know, if this all comes together, the buffet of sports we could have in the fall of 2020 between U.S. Open tennis and Masters golf and U.S. Open golf and football and potentially baseball World Series. I mean, if things move forward at the rate the leagues want them to, it could be a sports fan's dream this fall with the Derby on Labor Day weekend and the U.S. Open the next weekend and the Masters following that. I mean, it really could be a joyous fall after what's been a Groundhog Day of 2020.
It was interesting when the NFL schedule came out, and I don't know how many people noticed it, but obviously you've got that. I think it's the second weekend in November, which is now Masters weekend this year. And it was so weird to take a look at the NFL schedule that Sunday and to see all the 1 o'clock games on Fox. because obviously CBS is going to be broadcasting the final round of the Masters.
Yep. And as I mentioned, the first thing I looked at, the very first thing I did was went to good old Google and said, what's the November 8th or whatever date it was, sunset time in Augusta? It's like 5 o'clock.
Right.
This sucker is going to be played early. I would imagine that CBS will have the Masters. Their goal is to have it over with, to get it to the 4:30, 4:25 kick. And if they go to a playoff, then, well, we'll deal with that as it comes. But that to me is how they're going to set this up.
Miller and Moulton on this Tuesday, 479-5551, 479-5551. We had a poll question yesterday, which we thought it was a pretty good one as poll questions go because it was timely. Yesterday in the state of Florida was go time for the hair salons. You could get a haircut yesterday. And so we asked, okay, this is like the week before when restaurants were opening up, and we asked you going to go out and eat at a restaurant this week?
And less than 50% of you were going to go out to a restaurant. It was close.
Right.
But it was less than 50% of you that were going to venture out to eat at a restaurant. I was one that said yes. It took me the whole week to get there. And I was ready to go. It took me 7 days to get to a restaurant. But the haircut? Apparently this is serious business, David.
Not willing to risk it for food.
Which there is another question that really evolves out of yesterday's poll question. If on a sports talk show station, over 52% of the votes were to get a haircut, what do you think this vote would have been on Wink FM?
Oh, my goodness. 83%.
Right.
83%. Listen, and for those that have been listening, my wife has been all over this from 2 weeks before anyone else was even thinking about it. She's been self-quarantined for a long time, the whole deal. I mean, I have literally gotten my wife out of the house on 4 occasions. One was to go 3 blocks and put something to mail in a mailbox. All right. And 2 of the other 3 times was she actually got in the car and I drove her to go see her mother. All right. And I sat on a park bench, 8 feet apart from one another, and they talked to one another for an hour. All right. My wife has been cautious to say the least. But when it comes to getting the hair done, even she's mapping out, well, I see they got some plastic and they got this, and apparently you don't
justifying it, huh?
She's
justifying it, isn't she?
She is talking herself into it. Yes, she is. Nothing else. And not for groceries, not for, me to see anybody. Oh, no.
David, everybody who's listening right now, I would say is if you're up before 7 o'clock listening to our show, you listen to Miller and Moulton regularly. Or if you stumbled upon us, thank you. But David, if you recall a couple of weeks ago, you had to essentially beg for a hug.
Hey, come on. Can I get a hug?
Your wife was apprehensive to hug her husband of nearly 20 years, 20 what?
It'll be 24 next month.
24, a quarter century.
I mean, we're moderately fond of one another. I can say that with confidence. We are more than moderately fond of one another.
And she did not want to hug you and is talking herself to going to let a stranger fondle. Well, it's not a stranger.
No.
Someone she likes far more than you to fondle her head for a couple of hours.
I was going to say, Mark, as we all know with the women in our life, all right, when it comes to if the ship is going down, their kids are number 1, their parents are number 2, and their hairdresser's number 3, and their spouse is number 4.
Depends. Right. They have a dog.
Well, that's true. It could be further down the list.
Exactly.
Right. But yes, hairdresser above spouse. Let's
no doubt there. I think we're all in agreement. We are all in agreement.
Right. We all have our roles in this thing. And little did I know growing up that was a big one. So, yes, talking herself into has the appointment already set.
Ooh, so does my wife. Very happy. Next Wednesday.
Is just trying to figure out whether or not she's going to honor it. And so she's got a couple of weeks there to talk herself into it. And she's trying to every day. Cannot get herself to go to a grocery store. I got to go again tonight. Oh, no. No, she views that as going into battle. Well, that's how she describes going to a grocery store.
I don't know what she describes hugging you as, but she did just send me a text that said, we hugged last Friday.
Well, and we did. We did. All right. And fireworks went off, and it was magical. It was magical. I think it lasted about 6 seconds. All right. It was fantastic. I've got it already earmarked on the calendar. Sometime in mid-July, we'll hug again.
Perfect.
All right.
Perfect.
Don't want to.
Planning is key in these trying times.
Right. A big step will be if she goes to the hairdresser. If she goes to the hairdresser, maybe I could get on the monthly schedule of hugs.
You might even go every other week. Who knows? We could get good.
Take it easy now. Take it easy. Come on now, big fella. Miller and Moulton. So yesterday,
we're getting haircuts.
Yeah.
I mean,
what was the percentage?
A little over 52. But, I mean, more people interested in getting a haircut than eating in a restaurant.
Hey, because, well, they view a haircut as more essential.
Yeah, wow. Wow. But we did something we don't normally do on this show. We had our poll question up before the show started today.
I know. What the heck is going on over here?
And
sound like Lombardi there.
Yeah, mainly.
Thing. Grab. What the heck is going on over here?
But David wanted this poll question yesterday, and he was fine holding it off. David, this has been on the top of David's mind more than any other thing in sports for a week to 10 days. But he held off, and Monday said, damn it, we're talking baseball. And a couple of things have happened. And I said it to David before the show. One, it seems like whether hockey and basketball are trying to figure it out, they've kind of gone in the weeds here. We were hearing a lot of talk of coming back and what we were doing and where we were at. And
not now.
And Adam Silver over the weekend said, I don't know if we're going to play. Shaq made his comments. You've heard nothing out of the NHL. They've been shifting their talk to what they're going to do with their draft. I mean, it's gone radio silence.
The only thing I've heard from hockey is late last week, heading into the weekend, they were proposing, because you've got 31 teams in the NHL. You're going to have 32 in a couple years when Seattle joins. But they were going to have a 24-team playoff.
Right.
That was the last thing that we heard. It was late last week that when they resume, they're going to go right to the playoffs, and they're going to have 24 teams, which essentially is 8 byes. And then my guess is, however they figure it out, and they were going to play 9 through 24. Those 16 teams were going to play a best of 3. Obviously, 8 would survive, and then the 8 who got the 1 week off would play the 8 who have started playing, and there we go.
But baseball, in the last 72 hours, has seemingly made it very apparent not only do they want to play, but early July looks to be the go date.
Right, sometime between July 1st and July 4th. July 4th's a Saturday, so the natural start would be Friday, July 3rd.
And they want to play. The owners want to play. The players want to play. Except they don't know how they're going to pay one another.
There you go.
And that seems to be kind of important.
It's the stumbling block. They can work through everything else. And they don't agree on everything else, but they can work through everything else. But right now, they're on opposite ends of the spectrum here.
But when Tony Clark, who is the head of the Players Association, says a system that restricts player pay based on revenues is a salary cap, period.
Correct.
I don't know how you dice that sentence any other way than, we're not taking a pay cut again, guys.
I told you yesterday, the players will forfeit the season before they will agree to this proposal. I am absolutely convinced of it. Absolutely convinced of it. Miller and Moulton. We'll get more into the nitty-gritty about it coming up. David Sampson will join us at the top of the hour. Former president of the Marlins, covers MLB for CBS Sports. He will join us at 7 o'clock. Today's a Tuesday. Pat Kerwin will join us roughly 2 hours from now to talk all things football. Miller and Moulton. The starting five is next. Top of the morning to you. Thanks for making us part of your day. We're Miller and Moulton, Southwest Florida's Fox Sports Radio.
Receiving over.
Alexa, play Fox.
Yeah, I read that sentence this morning first thing and went, huh.
Oh, yeah.
As far as statements go, that's a strong one.
Smart speaker.
Players are like, it ain't happening. I'm telling you right now, we are not doing what you're proposing. And if you want to not play because of it, okay.
Just say, Alexa,
Hello.
play Fox Sports FM on TuneIn.
Finally, something worthwhile.
I didn't think it was going to be this easy.
State Farm understands we're all living a new normal. To any of our customers currently facing financial burdens, call your State Farm agent or go to statefarm.com because we're here to help. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
Great news, Southwest Florida. Below invoice employee pricing at Galliana Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram. That's right. Below invoice pricing on Chrysler Pacificas, Jeep Wranglers, Jeep Gladiators, and heavy-duty Ram trucks. Over 1,500 new and certified pre-owned vehicles in stock. Plus, you can drive payment-free for 4 months, interest-free for 6 years, and worry-free up to 100,000 miles. Below invoice employee pricing at Galliana Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram. GallianaCars.com.
I'm Lois Tomey from Wink News. They have been there from the beginning.
We're going to be here as long as we need to be here.
And they haven't backed down yet. With smiles behind their masks and passion in their eyes, they are our first line of defense so that we can live our best normal.
Reporting live for Wink News.
Wink News will stay out front to say thank you to our frontline champions. You are
Do the
what makes
players
us Gulf
get
Shore
paid at
strong.
all? No.
Listen to the Dan Patrick Show.
They got one payment. I think they got paid 6 weeks' pay, if I'm not mistaken, Nick. But they have not been getting paid after that.
Floormeisters in Naples on the phone. We're talking about their huge selection
David,
and great pricing on Core-Tech flooring. Tim,
David, didn't get the players get like 6 weeks of pay in MLB?
Yeah, I'm not quite sure if they're getting paid for the final time Friday, the 15th, or if they received their final checks already. But yes, the agreement was if there are no games this year, the players would get like 40 days pay.
We also carry the Core-Tech Stone product. Looks like tile, looks like stone, but it's Core-Tech, so you get the softness, quietness, and the easy installation to go with it. We also have Core-Tech wood, look of wood, real wood, but with a more stable core for Southwest Florida's humidity.
If you haven't been to the Floormeisters, you really owe it to yourself to visit the store. 6281 Naples Boulevard, right next to Costco, or go online, floormeisters.com. That's floormeisters.com.
Has this been more of a, has this been Groundhog's Day? Has this been Outbreak, the Dustin Hoffman movie? I mean, what real life movie are we living right now?
To me, it's Groundhog. Every day is exactly the same. Get up, do the show, and then I'm on dog duty to keep her away from Julie, who's doing therapy.
Gotcha.
And so, and then I take my walk. I've got a 60 to 90 minute block in which I got to get my exercise in, and it varies based on her schedule. And then, we watch the same news, and then we're watching something on Netflix from about 7 o'clock to 8:30.
Gotcha.
She goes to bed. For me, it's become Groundhog's Day. I feel like I'm in the military. My day is exactly the same.
Hi, this is Dr. Scheibel from Community Eye Center. My partner, Dr.
Maddie's teacher stopped over yesterday. They do this thing for AR books online, and when if you grow your flower, and once the flower is full, the teacher usually has lunch with you, but obviously she couldn't, so she came over and dropped off a little gift. We sat and chatted, three of us, for a while in the front yard yesterday. I was talking to her. Well, what are you going to do? She goes, yeah, they're talking about, 6 feet. She goes, what am I do, hang kids from the ceiling? I don't have room.
Now back to Miller and Moulton.
I don't see how you're going to be able to do it.
Can't. That's what. But,
This is Miller and Moulton.
You're live.
.6:30. On the Nose here on Miller and Moulton, Southwest Florida's Fox Sports Radio, streaming foxsportsfm.com, broadcasting live on the Miller and Moulton YouTube and Twitch TV channel. Sign up for them. They're free. Get to watch us broadcast. And in the case of Twitch, we got a chat room, and you can chime in during the show. And, you know, Mark's more on top of it than I am. You know, he gets more of your dialogue than I do based on our, well.
Yeah, I don't know why that is.
Yeah, I don't either, but my phone does not, all right, get as many of the, you know, chat room texts or comments, if you will, as you do. I don't know why that is.
Can't help you there.
It bums me out because I just love to be, you know, symbiotic with my peeps.
It bums me out, too, because in the commercial breaks, what I find most enjoyable and why I would suggest to watch Miller and Moulton on YouTube or Twitch.
Here we go.
Because when the chat room's going on, I'll look and I'll say, oh, Jack, and I'll answer his question. Or Nick asked a question during that break, and I answered it, and David came on and said, am I right about that? Because he went to get a water. What I enjoy is someone asks the question, you watch David's head go down, and you can see the shoulders moving enough that he's texting. And it's a long text answer instead of just answering the person with the microphone. That is the joy of Twitch TV. We can talk about the poll question as well. It has been on the top of David's mind for a few days, and it's made its way, finally, to an actual poll question. The MLB owners want the players to take a pay cut on top of them only receiving half pay this year. Who do you side with, the owners or the players?
I'm with the players.
That Mark Miller, the David Moulton. I'm with the players as well. I don't know. I don't think that they'll hold firm. You think that they will. That's where we differed yesterday.
Yeah.
And I think there's so many players, and to lose a whole year for all of these players, eventually I think the rank and file will vote to play.
I think the players will go off the cliff on this one. I really do. And I don't think the owners have it in them to go off the cliff on it, but I do think the players do. Because this is, and we can get into it right now with the Starting Five.
Starting Five. 5 big stories that you need to know. This is Miller and Moulton Starting 5. Fox Sports Radio and foxsportsfm.com.
The owners in baseball finalized their proposal amongst themselves yesterday. They are presenting it to the players today. In a nutshell, here are the highlights of the proposal. They're going to go with an 82-game regular season. Now, the players can object to any and all of this. They can say more or less or yes or no to any of it. 82-game regular season being proposed by the owners, an extra round of the playoffs because instead of 10 playoff teams, we're going to have 14, 7 in each league. Universal DH this year. Pitchers will not hit. Teams will play in their home ballparks if the local authorities will let them. Now, that is interesting, even in New York and California, if you're not having crowds, and right now the plan is to not have fans. I don't know if some of these states where the governors are like, no, you can't do this. Well, that's with crowds. Can you not do this if there are no crowds? I guess we're going to find out here. The schedule will be done by geography. Like AL East, you'll play a lot of division games, and then your interleague games will be against NL East teams. They're going to try to bus as much as possible, which is interesting in and of itself.
David, can I just... I guess there's a few, there's technically a few more people involved in a charter flight than there is in a charter bus. There is. I get it. We are not talking about the Cape Cod League here. Well, I'm serious.
I understand, but,
first off, these states that aren't allowing large gatherings, David, by definition, their large gathering is like 20 people.
Right.
So a baseball team has 9 on the field at once. Now, the social distancing for the defense, pretty solid, except for the catcher. And when runners are on base.
Right.
Okay.
Right. So just baseball said the intention is to play in the home ballparks where allowed. June, spring training, about 3 weeks. And then July 4th weekend would be the start. I think all of this can be negotiated, and it would take an hour. Here it is in a nutshell. The owners are proposing a 50-50 revenue split. That is a non-starter for the players because that's a salary cap. That is a form of a salary cap. And the Baseball Players Association has gone to great lengths to not go down the road of football, basketball, and hockey. It's a non-starter for them. It is. That is their line in the sand. They will not play as opposed to agree to a 50-50 revenue split. And, Mark, this is why I think this is a bit of PR by the owners, because this is to make the players look bad.
There's no doubt. And they've waged the war publicly. Yes. There is no need at this point for the owners to be out with the media laying these claims out unless they felt that they had no shot at getting this done and they were looking for public sympathy to go to their side.
Correct. And so here it is. Now, these guys have, in theory, about a month to negotiate this before camps would open up for spring training. And from what I'm understanding, Mark, they would not come to Arizona and Florida and work out for 3 weeks. I think everybody would just start working out where they are. So I do think that we have seen the last here in Southwest Florida of baseball this year, but a 50-50 revenue split. Now, what is important to understand, not just for our poll question, but the players are only going to get paid for the games they play. So if Mookie Betts has a $20 million salary this year, he's only, I know, going to get roughly $10 million if they adopt this 82-game schedule. Now, what the owners are then looking for is, since there are going to be no fans, and the owners are now saying up to 40% of their revenue comes from fans and concessions
from
and
gate,
parking.
Basically
Right.
from gate revenue. Because what they did is 30% may be the gate, but then they started looking at what they make, and you'll see it get up closer to 50 by the time this is done. Because I've seen it go that high, because then they start adding in concessions and things that are in arena.
Right. Last week, when they were waging the PR battle through the media, it was 30%. Now, 5 days later, it's 40%. And they, through the 50-50 revenue split, this is their way of getting the players to absorb some of the pain along with them. And the players are like, yeah, we've already negotiated this. It ain't happening. And we've negotiated this revenue split thing for 45 years. This ain't happening. Ever. We are never agreeing to this, period. So we'll see where it goes. They're going to hand it to the players today. The players have already said there's one thing on it that they will never agree to. So the countdown's on. It's May 12th. And in theory, the week of June 8th is when they would start working out.
And I said this yesterday. I will say it every single day, I'm sure, until they figure this out. If the seasons are canceled, if right now the NBA and NHL canceled their seasons because of the coronavirus, we're all just going to go, okay, that sucks. If Major League Baseball cancels their season because they couldn't come to an agreement on how to play during the coronavirus year, it's a brand that's already hurting nationally. I don't know how much of this they can afford.
Well, and also the reason that basketball and hockey, if they don't resume, won't resume, will be because of the coronavirus. All right. What Major League Baseball is now saying, if they can't come to an agreement, it will not be because of the coronavirus. It will be because of money. And that is not going to go over.
No, not when we're hovering at the largest unemployment numbers we've seen since World War II. And that doesn't even get into what I think has to be where the majority of us are. A lot of us are still working, making far less than we were making originally because of this. I don't even know how we off of sports for 10 seconds. I don't know how you factor that in, David. Like when they're showing you unemployment numbers and all of these things, how do you factor in every salesperson out there that works on some basis of commission that's making 20, 30% of what they were making? They're still working.
Right.
They're not unemployed.
No, they're not on the stat sheet, but they're also not pumping nearly as much money into
and
the
that's
economy. Right. Oh, yeah.
So don't play because of money. Good luck, guys. Wow.
Yep. Billionaires against millionaires. That always resonates well with the public. All right. Mark, there's quite a few interesting stories that have emerged in the last 24 hours. The Pac-12 is discussing an 11-game regular season. They'd cancel all non-conference games. They would just play amongst each other. Now, they've said they have 6 weeks to make a final decision. They think their time frame is mid to late June. But just for instance, we talked about Oregon scheduled to host Ohio State this year. USC is supposed to start the season with a neutral site game against Alabama, and this is the year that USC is supposed to host Notre Dame in their annual rivalry. So if the Pac-12 goes to a, hey, we're just going to play amongst each other schedule, think of those 2 games that USC is going to lose, Bama and Notre Dame. Is Mike Tyson serious about a comeback? Have people been seeing what's been going on for about a week now on social media? Apparently, Iron Mike has gotten himself in shape. Probably, at least from looking at him, the best shape that he's been in maybe since before he went to prison. He's 53 years old, and he's been releasing a series of him working out and him boxing.
This is what old people are doing during the coronavirus. They are putting videos of themselves out exercising. First Percy Harvin, now Mike Tyson.
Yeah, about a 30 age difference between Percy Harvin and Mike Tyson. But Tyson released a workout last night, and at the end of it, he looked into the camera and he said, "I'm back."
Where was he?
I was hanging out with them pigeons.
Gotcha.
Remember, he did that whole thing with the pigeons. The lawsuit from Zion Williamson's former marketing company against Zion, I don't want to say it's going to get ugly, but the marketing company was quoted yesterday as saying, quote, "the road of discovery like you wouldn't believe." Translation, Coach K is going to get deposed in this thing. Just keep paying attention to this. This is going to be ugly. Ugly. There's going to be a lot of pressure on Zion to write this company a check.
He will.
Somebody, Nike.
CAA's writing the check.
Off. Pay these people
CAA's got to write this check, David. And he left this Prime Sports to go with CAA. It's his agents, and his old agent is suing for money that they feel that they're owed. And
but they're suing for $100 million.
Right.
I mean, that's a big check.
They're not going to get $100. They're not going to get $100 million, but CAA will give them something to shut them up.
We'll see. We'll see. Just
can't have Coach K getting deposed.
I know that won't go over well. Florida Tech's a Division II school in Melbourne, Florida. They're one of only 2 that play Division II football in the state. Well, they ain't playing it anymore.
Nope.
They dropped it. They dropped their football program yesterday afternoon, specifically because of the coronavirus. The program started in 2013. They had invested about $4 million into starting up this program, which was actually a pretty good program. They had already made the Division II playoffs a couple times, and West Florida, who's in their conference, played for the national championship last year in D2. Speaking of conferences, FSW is switching conferences in basketball. They're leaving the Suncoast Conference, which both the men and women had dominated for the last 3 years. They're leaving it for the Southern Conference. And FGCU women's basketball program continues to reload. They've added Eastern Michigan guard Elijah Stanley. All right. She has 3 years of eligibility left. She averaged 12 points a game and shot 34% from beyond the arc. She started and played her high school career in the state of Florida. And that mark is
the starting five. 5 big stories that you need to know. This is Miller and Moulton starting five. Fox Sports Radio and FoxSportsFM.com.
I mispronounced her name. I said Elijah. I think it's more Alea. Alea Stanley from Boynton Beach. But so some interesting tidbits there in the starting five, the biggest of which leads into our poll question. It's baseball. The owners want the players. Now they're disguising it as revenue sharing, but it would be a pay cut this year. I mean, they would earn less doing it the owner's way than doing it the way that they've already agreed upon, which is we're going to get paid by game, period.
The owners are proposing a salary cap.
Yes, and a pay cut, since there will be a lot less revenue this year, a pay cut will ensue for the players. They're wanting the players to absorb some of the financial pain. And the way they're proposing it is a salary cap, which the players have always said there's no way, and you know what, we are going to have a salary cap. So should the MLB players take an additional pay cut besides only getting paid for the games they play, which you may say, well, that sounds fair, and I think we all agree, but with the way the contracts were worded, you know, when it says guaranteed contract, it doesn't mean guaranteed contract based on the games played. I mean, guaranteed is guaranteed. So the fact that the players, you know, negotiated the fact, hey, we'll only get paid for the games we play, that may sound like a concession. It actually was. Miller and Moulton. So it's our poll question. Whose side are you on, players or owners, in this financial dispute? Miller and Moulton, Southwest Florida's Fox Sports Radio.
Welcome to the program.
This is the Dan Patrick Show.
Seth was just on a roll during your starting five, just texting away. The shift is social distancing.
Overpays for a lot of things, or doesn't get value in return.
Yeah, see, I literally, there's not one of Seth's comments that I see.
Well, apparently the Twip mobile app sucks. That's what people are saying.
Okay.
I don't know what to tell you.
I'm going to have to get another computer then.
Need a checkup? Call the doctor, the pool doctor.
Hi, Dr. Mark here. Your old pool pump is an energy hog and likely your second greatest user of electricity. We'll install a new Pentair energy-efficient pump, saving you over $500 a year. We're a family company, and for over 40 years, we've been doing business right.
The prescription is the pool doctor for award-winning pool service, repairs, and unheard of $39 diagnostic calls. That's mypooldoctor.com or 239-574-1133. State certified CPC 057088.
No matter where you're boating, with Towboat US, you're covered by the world's largest towing fleet with over 300 ports nationwide. Your local Towboat US companies in Charlotte, Lee, and Collier counties are here to help 24/7, 365 days a year. Inland, the river to Lake O, and out 75 nautical miles. And new membership pricing starts as low as $99. Call 239-945-1664 for more information, or visit towboatuscapecoral.com. With Towboat US, you're never stuck on the water.
This is Brian Creel here with my son.
So the Daily Caller just put a tweet out that Bill Maher, somebody that was on the Bill Maher show in the 90s, she says he sexually harassed her. Trump retweeted it 6 minutes ago. Ratings way down. Show sucks. Thanks, Donald. Really glad you're informing me about the Bill Maher show retweeting the Daily Caller at 6:43 in the morning.
Right now, get 0% financing and no payments for 90 days.
What the hell?
Visit KubotaUSA.com for full disclaimer.
Creel Tractor since 1972.
105.9 Naples.
That's all right. I mean, he's often wrong about that stuff. Like I get it. He's, hates the New York Times and Washington Post, and if I was in his shoes, I'd understand that. But when he talks about that, they both actually have much higher.
Right, the Times it's as well as the Times been doing it a long time, isn't it? I mean, they're actually killing it. They're maybe the only newspaper in the country that is, but.
And I think the Washington Post is doing pretty well during all this as well.
No, I didn't, Seth.
It's a free, no-obligation inspection that can benefit you in the form of a new roof. Williamson Brothers Roofing, we deal with the insurance carrier for you. Call us at 239-283-2013. Again, time is running out. Call us at 239-283-2013. Williamson Brothers Roofing specializes in the claims process.
My only, and I look at it, and I'm sure I saw. Yeah, I saw. I get it, Seth, and I don't know what to tell you. We say this every week, and we'll say it tomorrow. There's too much money involved. See, Fauci and King are on the same side of this. There are many other people that aren't. And Seth, you may be 180% right. That's not the point of this. Dr. Fauci can say all day long that people are going to get sick if we play football. The NFL's playing football. I don't know how else to slice this. It's money. And
we've got our good friend Tim Meister.
And when someone tests positive for it, they're going to pull him out and they're going to put someone else in.
Yeah, I really think what the UFC did this weekend is what we've been saying for a while. That's exactly how it's going to happen. Somebody tests positive, they take them out. That's it. Everybody else continues doing their thing, and then we see whether or not any of them are going to test positive.
I mean, it was, Mike Griffith had talked about that picture of the Georgia Tech game from the Spanish flu and everybody in the stands with masks. Will we get to that point? I'm not sure. But all I know is that, I look at like my Bucks tickets and I look at my mother-in-law's Steeler tickets. Let's just say they allow 25% of fans in. What do you think those tickets are worth? More or less than face value? Because 25% of this country is going to a game, no matter how scared 75% may be.
Now back to Miller and Moulton.
All right, now we're getting somewhere.
This is Miller and Moulton.
You're live.
Eight minutes before 7 o'clock, David Sampson, former president of the Marlins, now covers Major League Baseball for CBS Sports. He'll join us coming up in 10 minutes' time. Pat Kerwin, an hour and a half from now here on Miller and Moulton. 479-5551 is how you can chime into the show by either a phone call or texting in on the Williamson Brothers Marine text and talk line. A lively Twitch chat room during the break.
Whenever Seth starts chatting in the Twitch chat room, we have a lively Twitch chat room, because if Seth's awake, he will come and join our show for a little bit on twitch.tv/Miller and Moulton. I did ask you, is this Outbreak or Groundhog's Day? I mean, what movie are we living? And since there's the occasional monkey running around in the woods in Florida is where I went Outbreak there, David. But nice. for you, it is typically Groundhog's Day, because I get to do different things. At least there's a different lesson plan every day. You are pretty much on autopilot, aren't you?
Yeah, every day is the same for me. And it's a little monotonous. It is. I look forward to I have one food run a day, which is anywhere from 15 to 30 minutes. I get my radio fix in while I go and get my fast food. It's usually lunch. And then before or after that, I will have done my hour walk. I will say, for me, I have walked every day since March 23rd.
Well, it's good to know you can still do it.
Minimum of 2 hours, 2 miles a day.
And we're proud of you for that. Do you feel better?
I do feel better. Yes. Yeah. Your point earlier is so true that, you don't feel well, and that's why you don't exercise. And then when you do exercise, you go, wow, this makes me feel better. I should do more of it. But of course, the next day you go back to feeling I just want to lay here and be a slug because I'm really good at it.
Right. That second bag of Cheez-Its last night while I was watching television after the wife went to bed were delicious. They were better than any walk. They didn't last as long as a walk, but for that moment, David, they were better.
It's good that I'm now doing the grocery shopping during this because my wife won't, brave going to the grocery store. And so I'm not buying the snacks except for her. And let me tell you, she is loving her snacks right now. I mean, can't get enough Lay's potato chips, and as she calls them, vegetables, which are the Reese's Minis.
Yeah, I have tried to avoid going to the store with my daughter, but I can't. Sometimes I can't help it. We've got to get some things done during the day, and I will say, my daughter, unbeknownst to me, has kind of been a leader in the little kid mask department. Because when you walk into any store, kids do not want to wear these masks.
Right.
And my daughter has your wife's mentality when it comes to getting out of the car in public. Dad, before the doors are open in the car, we got to mask up.
Okay.
And
for her.
And then, we hold hands and go into the store. And I've noticed other parents, like walking by, seeing her, grabbing their kid, and see, she's got hers on. Because
Right.
I
You
have
put yours
seen, I pay attention to people with kids. I didn't in the midst between Jake and Maddie of little kids, but I look and kids don't like to wear the mask.
No.
At all.
I think you should let them color them in some way. Let them individualize them if you can. All right. Then I think they'd be a little more fond of them, more attached to them. They think they're cooler than what they are.
Something because, Jake's teacher or Maddie's teacher stopped over. She'd hit a goal and she dropped off a present yesterday. And we just talked briefly. You and I have said this. These school rooms are small. I mean, that much as I hate this new normal thing, we may see kids in class wearing masks now. A lot more note passing.
Oh, good. That'll be like the old days.
Right.
It'll be fantastic. Yeah, it'll be a lot harder, though, if you're social distancing. A lot more leaning. Could risk falling out of the chair. Did you ever have that happen? You're passing over all of a sudden, and you got the books underneath, so you got the weight, and you get the weight going, and then all of a sudden you just tilt, and you're on the floor in social studies. Hated when that happened.
Wow.
Hated with that.
That is a great visualization of you falling out of a desk.
Yep.
What grade?
Oh, Mark, it'd be a once-a-year thing. Hell, I fell off a stage when I was in television in Fargo at an event. I was one of the featured speakers at the event. I fell off the stage. All right. They put me at the very end. All right. And the four-legged chair there, the one leg was off the side of the stage. I sat in it and went, boom, down goes Frazier. Oh, yeah. And they caught it on TV. They had it on video. So I said, well, I need that. So I showed it in the sports that night. I said, had a big speaking engagement. All right, here it is. Boom. Bison Football Club, North Dakota State. Boom. Yep. Crashed and burned.
David Sampson will not crash and burn. He will join us momentarily to talk about what's going on in Major League Baseball on Miller and Moulton, plus Pat Kerwin in the 8 o'clock hour. Thanks so much for listening. Fox Sports Radio.
Great news, Southwest Florida.
One down, 2 to go.
They love that I showed it in the newscast.
I would love to see it.
So, I'll dig it up. It was in 99. It was my last year there.
For 4 months, interest-free for 6 years, and worry-free up to 100,000 miles. Below invoice employee pricing at Galliana Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram. GallianaCars.com.
From Southwest Florida's news leader, this is a Wink News Update.
I'm Therese O'Shea with Wink News.
Well,
Coronavirus cases.
Arch, masks are good if you have it and don't know it. That is the whole point of a mask. You are preventing spreading it. And the fact that we're not testing enough people seems that masks are a useful thing.
Well, the other thing is that I think they give people some reassurance.
Well, and he says that, but he says masks are feel-good BS, and they're not feel-good BS. If you have the virus, you will not pass it if you are wearing a mask properly. That's a fact.
And, I would also argue, Archangel, it's not BS if it gets people out of the house. It's not BS if it allows them to do some things.
The glove part, Archangel, you are exactly right about. To wear gloves all over and touch things over and over is not helping.
Yes.
That is the line about wearing a condom with multiple people is basically what you're doing with gloves. Yes. Wash your hands. Don't touch your face. Get in your car and put hand sanitizer on. Yes.
Winning brand of shower doors. My Shower Door is a family-owned and operated business and has the highest ratings on the Angie's List.
Well, the gentleman in there who said, if they start playing and what if Brady tests positive? Listen, we've been saying this from the very beginning. The very first question these leagues need to answer before tackling anything else is, what are we going to do when someone tests positive? Not if. When? What are we going to do? come up with that plan and that answer, and then tackle everything else. That's the ball game right there.
Right?
No,
that's it.
I am.
Oh, okay. Thanks.
That's the ball game. What are you going to do when someone tests positive? And I think if these leagues want to play, the only thing you can do is take the individual out and keep moving forward and hope that it doesn't lead to a mass outbreak.
Hello.
David, good morning. Mark Miller and David Moulton. How are you, sir?
Good morning. How are you?
We are good. In COVID world now that multiple locations and a new way to set up, I'm calling you instead of the producer, and we're going on in about 20, 30 seconds.
I am ready and looking forward to it.
Fantastic. We always appreciate it, David.
Wake up in the morning. Yep, that's it. Miller.
This could end the bro hug. That would be great for you because there is nobody worse at the bro hug than one David Moulton.
And Moulton.
I used to be. 2019, I found my bro hug groove.
Southwest Florida's Fox Sports Radio.
All guests appear on the Goldberg Noon Abraham hotline. Goldberg-law.com.
Oh, I like It's up to you now. It's up to you. I like it.
Now, the best local sports show this town has ever heard. Here's Miller and Moulton.
You're live.
Couple of minutes past 7 o'clock on this Tuesday, the 12th of May. Thanks so much for being with us. We are Miller and Moulton, and this is Southwest Florida's Fox Sports Radio. We stream this and every show on the station at foxsportsfm.com, and you can watch and listen live via the Miller and Moulton YouTube and Twitch TV channels. It's a pleasure to welcome back former president of the Miami Marlins. He now talks baseball for CBS Sports and CBS Sports HQ, and check out his daily podcast, Nothing Personal, with David Sampson, and follow David on Twitter at David, the letter P, Sampson. David, good morning, and we are very sincere when we ask you, how are you and your family doing during these times?
Thank you very much. Everyone is doing okay, trying to figure out what the sunrise will bring each day because it's something different.
Well, at least it's something different for you. We were just discussing for David, his life's turned into Groundhog's Day lately, and I at least like a little variety, so that's a good thing. David, let's get right into it with what's going on in baseball. When the proposal has come out that the owners are looking for a revenue share, Tony Clark said a revenue sharing is a salary cap, period. I don't know if there could be a bigger canyon between the two sides. Do you think it's that big, and do you think there is any way with this revenue sharing in the deal that they can get a deal done to play this year?
Well, the revenue split that the owners are asking for is a one-time sort of COVID caveat is what I'm calling it. And while I understand the players believe that they are trying to ask for a salary cap in the same way that owners have asked for a salary cap in the past, I do think this is different. Having said that, I do not think that this will be accepted by the players, and I think they will find common ground in a way to prorate salaries further, because that further proration is necessary, because the loss for the owners and the loss of revenue was something not contemplated when they made a new agreement last March, which seems like 2 years ago, but it was only 2 months ago. But a lot has changed since then.
But the players, and, David, I'm not explaining anything that you don't know, obviously, but for those that are listening, the players' contention is 6+ weeks ago when we renegotiated, made an addendum to our CBA and agreed to what we agreed to, that this was out there 6 weeks ago. And if you guys, the owners, didn't think of this, well, that's on you. And we ain't giving you any more than what we gave you. I mean, that's their contention. Do you see where they're coming from?
Well, no, because of course it was discussed. And I think both sides, there's no provision in any agreement where either side is surprised by what is there. It's read over by lawyers. It's agreed to, discussed. It's noodled over. It's canoodled over. And what you're referring to is a sentence that says that if there are no fans, we have to discuss the economic feasibility of starting a season without fans and what changes that would be. What was agreed to is the prorated salary, which is not much of an agreement. If you get paid to play 162 games, but the season's only 81 games, of course, if you're a $10 million player, you're only going to get $5 million.
Right.
But that would be if there are full revenue, like in a regular strike-shortened season of 95 or of 1981, it makes sense. When the season starts, fans come in, people are buying hot dogs, corporate sponsors are there, everything's just prorated and it's perfect. That's just not where the world we're in now, because without fans, the revenue goes down even further.
But without players, David, you don't have games, and the only people who are really taking a risk are the players. If I'm representing the players, that's what I keep bringing up. These guys are going out and not just now risking injury. You could say they're risking their lives to go play, and that seems to be a bigger hurdle than the revenue for owners. If I were on the player side, is how I would be phrasing it. Seems like that's going to be a tough argument.
Yeah, I agree. It's not about just players, though, because as president of a team for 18 years, I was in the clubhouse and I was at games and I was dealing with things outside of my quarantine. There was no quarantine back then, but I'm saying that I'm involved. You've got cameramen involved. You have bus drivers involved. You have tons of people, not just players. So I totally agree with you that the health issue, to me, is a far bigger hurdle than any economic issue. And how we figure out a way that once a season starts, it doesn't have to stop when there's a positive test somewhere in the bubble of game personnel, which include players. So there's a lot of things that do need to be worked out. And we're in the first inning of this. That's why it's starting now. We're not talking about starting the season. I wrote an article yesterday where I don't think it starts till August 1st, an 81-game season. So there are months left to go through these issues, and this is simply step one.
He's David Sampson, former president of the Marlins, and he talks baseball in the CBS Sports family, CBS Sports HQ, and he's got a daily podcast called Nothing Personal. You can follow David on Twitter at David, the letter P, Sampson. All right, maybe final thing with the money, because there's a lot of other issues to get to here. If the players are hell-bent on not another dime, we're not giving back anything. You're the owners, and I know worldwide pandemic never entered into any of our equations, but hey, this is part of the risk of being an owner. I don't know what to tell you. You guys have slush funds. All right, deal with it. Do you think the owners would play this year?
I just don't think it's going to come to that, but the answer is no. I think in any employer-employee relationship, at the end of the day, there will be an agreement, but employers have to find a way to prevail, because without an employer, you can't be an employee. So the players can say all they want, but without owners, they would have nowhere to play except in the rec league, right, or the California Penal League. And it's not that I'm so pro-owner. It's not that I'm so pro-owner and anti-player. That's not the case, no matter what my experience is. I recognize the importance of employees. Without employees, employers can't make money and can't provide products to people. That's why there will be an agreement that has to happen, because during this time of pandemia, I don't think it's right and won't happen. Players and owners standing up and saying, hey, every other sport started, the world is starting again, and we can't come to an agreement. I don't think that's going to happen. I think everything's going to be okay, assuming we can get past the first thing you mentioned, which is truly the biggest hurdle, which are the health issues that have to be solved.
There's no doubt, David. And see, to me, I guess I'm positive that they'll get something done, because I think all of them are smart enough to realize, like you just said, if everybody else is playing and they can't figure this out because of money. We all know how long it took baseball fan to come back from 94. You throw on a worldwide pandemic and owners and players getting greedy over money and not playing. I don't know. I mean, the sport has some PR problems as it is. David, if they somehow were to screw this up, could they survive the PR blunders of not playing a season this year because of money? Not a pandemic. We're all fine. If they cancel the season from a health reason, David, I think we all would say, okay. But if they figured out that they could play and because of money couldn't get it done, I think that that's a blow that I don't know if baseball, I mean, they'd recover, but it'd take a hell of a long time, don't you think?
I lost you. Do you hear me?
I got you now.
Sorry
Yeah.
about that. Okay, so I think what you're saying is correct. Remember, what it took to get baseball back was the steroid home run chase between McGuire
Yep.
and Sosa in 1998. So it would take something Herculean to try to flatten the curve in terms of coming back, and baseball is aware of that. Everyone there has long institutional memories of what happened after 94, 95. And that is definitely a part of the equation. Tony Clark knows it. Rob Manfred knows it. There are at least 15 owners who were there who understand it. So I really, again, my cause for alarm has nothing to do with the presentation being made, which is causing all sorts of issues in social media right now. People losing their minds that the owners are presenting a cap, that the players are going crazy saying, we'll never do this, we'll never do that. Tony Clark giving comments. None of that is fruitful to me. I'd like them to be working together on the health issues because the economic issues will fall into place over a timely negotiation.
Okay. I'll make you the czar then. And as somebody obviously in the day-to-day operations of running a team, you know how many people are going to come in contact with one another or how difficult it's going to be to keep people separated. What is it that you want to see in order for baseball to play a half a season here? From a testing and safety standpoint, what do you need to hear and see?
So the first thing is testing, as Marsha Brady would say, or maybe it's Jan Brady, actually. There has to be enough testing to test everyone, not just the players. I'm talking about all the support staff, the broadcasters. As I was saying, the bus drivers, the flight attendants, the pilots, the check-in people at the hotel, the housekeepers at the road hotels. I'm talking about anybody, the public relations people, anybody involved in putting a game on, members of the media who are allowed access to the ballpark, the security people who have access to the ballpark, anybody who has anything to do with the game, testing every other day. Absolutely. Then everyone has to submit and agree to contact tracing. And we have to agree that if someone tests positive, they're going to be put on the injured list for 14 days if they're a player, or if they're a staff member, they have to stay away for 14 days. And then there will be testing of anyone in those contact trees every day. And you can keep doing your job until you feel symptoms or until you test positive. The other thing that we need is understanding that there's going to be a change in the perks that players get. The clubhouses in our ballpark, Marlins Park, my old ballpark, we have an auxiliary clubhouse. We have locker rooms where the game day employees, like concessionaires, used to get dressed. Players are going to be spread out. They're not going to be able to shower together, eat together, work out together. None of that is going to happen. Go to the training room together. All the places where players could congregate, all of that's going to stop. Masks will have to be worn when they're not on the field. Just little things like that, trying to guarantee that while it may not be as comfortable as we'd like, it guarantees that we can lessen the probability of a positive test.
And David, that seems to be, these are conversations David and I have had a couple of times on the show, but it seems to be the area that we think, and it seems that you do as well, all these sports are talking about getting on the field, but they're not talking about what happens when problems come. And there's no doubt that someone's going to test positive, and yet that's, you have an answer. The leagues don't. Don't they need to start giving us those answers sooner than later?
Well, I don't know if they have to give them to us right now because they have to fully bake them. I mean, I wrote an article that appeared on CBSSports.com yesterday in a lot of detail of what would need to happen logistically, right? Because I've run a team, so I can picture what happens from the minute you wake up to the minute the final pitch is thrown and the last person is out of the clubhouse. I have a realization of how many people are actually needed, not the number of people who are there. So it's going to be an adjustment. There's no question about it. But right now, if we have any chance to play, and the object of the game is to get a World Series champion in 2020 and start playing again when it's safe to do, there are sacrifices that everyone's going to have to make. And that's just, people will have to swallow hard and do it. And it's a big wait to see whether or not even the initial hurdles we can get past, which is the availability of testing without taking it from people around this country who need it. Our industry has to be able to have many, many thousands of tests available.
This may be a little too much minutia, but, remember when we were little, when we played baseball, we showed up at the ballpark with our uniform on. We just got out of the car, we walked onto the field, and we started, warming up, and we'd play. I mean, is it crazy to think that, like, first off, I can't imagine they're going to allow the media in a clubhouse all year. I honestly, I can't imagine it at all. And this may be the change that, carries on. But I mean, David, is it crazy to think that Aaron Judge has to show up at Yankee Stadium already dressed and ready to go? And you just, walk out, just make your way from the parking lot onto the field. I mean, is that a crazy thought?
Who's buying snow cones?
It's actually not crazy. The only issue would be the laundry part of it. But my plan would actually have people arriving at the clubhouse in shifts with 6 feet social distancing in between lockers. You'd have clubhouse attendants who are sanitizing the clubhouse and really in between players going to the field. It's like a ballet where there are stations where you have players in the food room getting packaged food, then they are allowed to shower, then they're in the field, then they're back, and then they leave. So it's like a moving parts, and it sounds like it could be complicated, but if it's choreographed correctly, then picture John Wick, the fight scenes in John Wick, the choreography and how amazing that was. It was like a ballet. That's what a baseball game would have to be, and it can work.
Someone spent some time thinking, David Moulton, that is my co-host, you're not the only one that's taken long walks and tried to figure out how to do this, because it certainly seems that David Sampson's taken a few walks to try to figure out a method. And I think you're right, David, that it is very simple in that, I've worked in the front office of teams, and I always marvel when the Super Bowl comes and they say that the kick's going to be at 6:18. There's a lot that goes into making that happen at that exact time. We all choreograph when the anthem's going to be at a game, when the door is open. I think it's just really choreographing it for the players, which has never been put into an actual system. And it's not as hard. You're breaking it down step by step, but that's really what has to be done, isn't it? For everybody.
Yeah, there's timelines for every game, for every event we put on at a ballpark.
Right.
And it always works. And believe it or not, the players, in a game of baseball where there's no clock, you'd be surprised how much we are ruled by the clock. We work backwards from a 7:05 first pitch. We work backwards to when a player reports, and they report at that time, when stretch is, when BP is, when the food room is open, when the media can be involved and interviews have to be given. So this can happen. It's just going to be a different rhythm than is normal for baseball players.
David, final question from me. Take the money out of the 5 or 6 other issues that are out there. 82-game regular season, scheduled by geography. Second week of June, they start working out. They start playing around July 4th. We're going to play in home ballparks where the governors basically allow them to. 14 playoff teams, universal DH. What do you think won't happen amongst all that? What changes? Like, I think the players are going to want more games because that's how they make more money. So I think the players are going to want it to be a minimum of 100. What change to the owner's proposal do you see?
Well, the number of games is just that. It's a proposal. The reason I have 81 games in my proposal is I don't think it's reasonable to start before August 1st. It's aspirational to start July 4th. If we can, great. That means we could get up to 100 games because I think playing through October can happen with playoffs in November, potentially even at neutral sites, although I don't prefer that because that means an extra team is at a hotel when that team could be at home. And making it safer and easier. So I think there is flexibility in some of those, but again, we can't dictate the timeline. The virus will dictate the timeline. All we can do is plan contingencies and come up with agreements with the union, between the union and the owners, that would allow for, once the health issues have been taken care of, we can then start the process that we have already outlined and agreed to and started immediately.
His daily podcast is called Nothing Personal. He's David Sampson, part of the CBS Sports family. You can follow him on Twitter at David, the letter P, Sampson. David, we always appreciate your time and your insights. Stay safe.
You too. Thanks so much. Have a great day.
David Sampson, kind enough to join us here on Miller and Moulton. So he thinks that the players should, and that ultimately they will, give in financially.
Like where he's at with breaking this down, it leads me to believe that there are a lot more people in front offices like him starting to think of the timelines of how we play games. And I'm not talking about when we start them, what we do. And, you know, as he mentioned, everything goes back off of a 7:05 first pitch. I did it with countless hockey teams. Win warm, and he's right. Even though hockey's a timed game, hey, at the 7:30 start, guys are at the rink by 6. They have their pregame nap at this time. It all works backward from early in the morning. So I do like that he is trying to formulate actual timelines, which leads me to believe others in baseball have done the same.
Would you put a limit on how many members of the media could be there during this? Like, because the Associated Press has a writer in every major league city. So you could say, like Tim Reynolds works out of the Miami office, and whether it would be Tim or somebody else who's working there, that, hey, we need you at every game. I don't know how many people we need besides you, but we need you because you produce stuff and you can send it out to virtually everybody and what have you. Would you limit the number of media that could be at these games?
If we're not having fans, if we're deciding that we're not having fans for the rest of the year, I'm trying to see why I need to have – I'm trying to eliminate as many people from the stadium as possible. I don't think I'd have any media at the games. I think I might have virtual press conferences after. I think that the play-by-play guys could do it from baseball would be hard, and I've said that before. Of all the sports to call from a monitor, I think baseball would be as hard as any. But I'm not sure I need anybody there.
I do think that this, and I have said for years, I've never understood why the players allow the media to walk through the clubhouses. They don't do it in the other sports when they're not. I don't understand it. And I think this will be the end of media in the clubhouses. I think that this is where the players will use the coronavirus to get the media out of their hair. And it will be, you guys are on the field and there are only designated areas where you could stand, and we'll kind of come up within about 6-8 feet of you and talk to you. And that's about it. And after the games, you're all going to go into a big room. It'll be like the White House press corps. Okay, although they're in a small room usually, but here we're going to take you to a room. We're going to sit you all 8 feet apart, however many of you we allow in, and we're going to bring in the people you want to talk to, and they're going to sit up here at a little table and a chair, and you're going to talk at a distance. That's, not that people care about that sort of thing, but the only thing I would argue with you, Mark, is that if we're not going to have any fans at the game, you may need some media to get more of what you're doing out.
Yeah. And this is where you and I have always differed. I think there are plenty of – this is where the teams could take complete control through their Instagram pages, their Facebook pages, their own Twitter accounts. I don't need the media there to get my – in fact, I can completely control my message now. I don't have to take any questions from you.
No, that is true. And teams are wanting to control the message as much as possible. And you're right, this could be a boon for, Marlins.com and RaysBaseball.com and all that. Heck, you may have the local media having to get their stuff off of the local team sites. Miller and Moulton. 479-5551 is how you can chime into the show. 479-5551 on the Williamson Brothers Marine and Roofing text and talk line. David Sampson joined us on the Goldberg Noon Abraham Law Firm hotline, Goldberg-Law.com. Pat Kerwin an hour from now here on Miller and Moulton, Southwest Florida's Fox Sports Radio.
This is The Herd with Colin Cowherd.
So I do not believe in coincidences. In the last 24 hours, reports New England's very interested in Tua and a premium pick and getting a quarterback. And then the next morning, Bob Quinn is saying, we're taking all sorts of calls for the number 3 pick. They used to work together, Bob Quinn, Belichick.
Colin Cowherd. Weekdays at noon on Southwest Florida's Fox Sports Radio and FoxSportsFM.com.
Hey guys, Frank here for Center for Men's Health, where the physicians and staff want you to know that C4MH.com is open and is going to remain open throughout this ordeal. C4MH.com continues to disinfect daily with Microban 24. All patients and staff wear masks, and they will provide you with one to keep. C4MH.com now checks your oxygen level, as a low oxygen saturation level is an early symptom of coronavirus. At C4MH.com, it's always been about doing it safely, and now they've stepped it up to the next level. I've been a C4MH.com patient for years, and I know that safety was always their first concern, but I'm amazed at how they responded to this issue. I just learned that C4MH.com has donated 10,000 gloves, dozens of N95 respirators, and hand sanitizers to hospitals. Their donations to hospitals just confirmed that C4MH.com wants frontline health care to be safe as well. C4MH.com, the leaders in low-T care.
Pool need a checkup? Call the doctor, the Pool Doctor.
Hi, Dr. Mark here. Do the math. Taking care of your pool is probably not a good use of your time and money. Free $50 Bonefish gift certificates when you sign up for one of our award-winning weekly service plans. We're a family company, and for over 40 years, we've been doing business right.
The prescription is the Pool Doctor for award-winning pool service, repairs, and unheard of $39 diagnostic calls. That's mypooldoctor.com or 239-574-1133.
State certified CPC 057088.
If your business was forced to downsize due to COVID-19 and now you are preparing to hire or rehire staff, let us help with your drug screening. Scott Richardson of Compass Drug Screening here. Compass Drug Screening can help streamline your drug testing program, often with same-day reporting. Compass Drug Screening is on Metro Parkway and available by appointment, or we can bring the testing to you with our on-site services. Visit CompassDrugScreening.com today. CompassDrugScreening.com. Let us help with your drug screening.
I'm a busy person.
Catch the show anytime. Check out MillerandMoulton.com and subscribe to the daily podcasts. No matter where you're boating, with Towboat US, you're covered by the world's largest towing fleet with over 300 ports nationwide. Your local Towboat US companies in Charlotte, Lee, and Collier.
Yeah, that's why I don't think they should go, Seth.
365 days a year.
That's why I don't think. I don't think you need the media to go, and I know media people will get pissy at me with that. But why? Why do they need to be there?
1664 for more information, or visit towboatuscapecoral.com. With Towboat US, you're never stuck on the water.
A big part of enjoying a good bike ride are all the sights you see along the way.
So when David and I both developed cataracts, it didn't take long for us to do something about it.
Turns out some of the best cataract surgeons in the world are right here in our area at Community Eye Center.
We really care about improving people's lives by improving their vision.
Dr. Spalding and Dr. Spatafor really do care about helping people, and we're so glad they helped us.
I totally agree with you, Seth. I think all of those things are great ideas, and I don't think any of them. You said it perfectly. People don't have any idea of the hygiene of an athlete. And hockey players all shower, but it doesn't mean they're not all filthy pigs, if you know what I mean. I spent too much time in minor league hockey locker rooms.
And play golf and go fishing and go to work and do the things we like to do. We are spreading the virus. The virus can only move with us. Over 65, diabetes, COPD. All these folks will be hurt severely by this virus. Wash your hands. Be careful. Don't be a spreader.
Don't be a spreader.
We are open for business and taking all precautions necessary. We have teamed up with Kubota Tractor offering curbside pickup for your parts and parts delivery, and the service department is open and ready to assist with any repairs here or at your location. Kubota
That's what I was thinking about, Seth, when David Sampson was talking about, the schedule and this, that, and the other thing. From what you were talking about last week with Torrey Hunter and Jock Jones, they're like, yeah, the people who are not going to abide by the rules are the players.
Thank you.
To Miller and Moulton. This is Miller and Moulton.
You're live.
.28 past 7 o'clock. Thanks so much for being with us. Miller and Moulton, Southwest Florida's Fox Sports Radio, streaming foxsportsfm.com, and broadcasting live on the Miller and Moulton YouTube and Twitch TV channels. Another lively discussion during the break, which you can get if you subscribe to the Miller and Moulton Twitch channel. 479-5551 is how you can chime into the show on the Williamson Brothers Marine and Roofing text and talk line, 479-5551. Our poll question, which is about our dominant topic of conversation today. It's baseball. The owners met yesterday. They finalized their proposal. They are giving it to the players today. In amongst that proposal is, well, what you would consider a salary cap. The owners are calling it a revenue share. But it would mean that the players would, in all likelihood, make less money than what they are scheduled to make. And the players' feeling is, no, I don't think so. We've negotiated this twice. including 6 weeks ago. We're getting paid by the game. We agreed upon that. Prorated, period. You guys lose money because there's no fans in the stands? That's a you problem. You're the owners. That's your risk. You know what our risk is? We're going to risk getting the coronavirus while playing. We're not taking a dime less. So we're asking you, whose side are you on? Players or owners?
2-1 on the side of the players, which
I'm shocked.
Stunned. Because, well, that's just very rarely the case. If ever.
Ever. 13 years, Mark, we've been doing this. Has there ever been a time in a player-owner dispute in which the public has been on the side of the players?
Nope.
I mean, you've married into a Steelers family, and we joked over the years, anytime there is a dispute between the Steelers and a player, with the exception of Hines Ward, fans are always on the side of the team. The only time I can recall in the last 30 years that the fans were not on the side of the team was Hines Ward. They said to the Steelers, pay the man his money. And ultimately they did.
And that's why we are stunned that in the early voting, which is a pretty decent amount of people in the first hour and a half of the show, that it's overwhelmingly for the players. And good, to be frank, because we've always been miffed at the fact that we're all players.
Yeah.
I mean, largely, even in this market, where we all probably know a multi-millionaire.
Right.
Or
maybe
10.
Even a billionaire.
Right. But even in this market, with the Fortune 500 owners and all the people that live in Naples, we're mostly players.
Right.
And yet we always support the team and not the player. It has baffled David and I as long as we have worked together. And you know me, I told you right from the get-go, I think the players will balk.
And I don't. The one thing I am positive about is they will not accept a revenue-sharing proposal. I was surprised that the owners put it in. I thought the owners, to have a chance to get the players and also to win public opinion, which, let's face it, that's what this whole thing is. I mean, the owners have been leaking out details for 5 to 7 days, while the players up until yesterday hadn't said a word. Well, the owners are playing the PR game. I thought the best shot the owners had was to just say, hey, we're going to suffer 30 to 40% revenue losses, which is $3 to $4.5 billion in a normal year. We can't absorb all of that. Can you guys absorb 10% of it, 15% of it, something like that? I do think that the public sitting at home, we're all 98% of us, I'm sure, are suffering financial losses during these times. Some of them are catastrophic. I think that the owners would have had more sympathy from the general public if they had gone that route and put a percentage on it. Say, hey, whether you take our numbers as, tell you what, we'll observe 2/3 of the losses, you observe 1/3 of it. Give us back 10 to 15% of what your prorated money is going to be. Can you accept 10% less for the rest of the year? Okay, can you do that so we can get through this together? Because these losses are pretty severe. I didn't ask David Sampson, Mark, but to me going forward, and I do think this is a very real discussion, how many franchises in the 4 major sports are going to be sold in the next 12 months? I mean, the guy who owns the Rockets, his empire is in the food industry.
Well, right. How are the Heat going to get through this?
Yeah, I mean, he's a cruise line guy.
I don't know if you checked the stock recently, but it's not doing all that well.
Right. I mean, the Mets ownership, they didn't have enough money, quite frankly, to own the team before this. I mean, the fact they were allowed to continue owning the team is a disgrace.
J-Lo.
Yeah, J-Lo. Please, that wasn't real. They just want their name in the paper. Come on. And they played it perfectly, and they got their names in the paper because they're both attention-seeking. Well, I can't say the word, not on this show. But Seriously, there are owners who I think are going to be forced to sell because of this. And then that was the approach that I thought the owners were going to take, in which they're like, listen, this is going to cost some people their franchises here. I mean, that's how serious this is. Now, it may not have changed anybody's opinion. The public may have just said, well, comes with ownership. I don't know what to tell you. We got small business people here who are losing everything also. I mean, sorry, don't feel any sympathy for you. But that's where I thought they were going to go on this. They want to go revenue sharing. I don't think the players will ever accept it.
No, they're going to have to. You're right, David. When Tony Clark comes out as strongly as he did just against the statement that's in there, that is enough. His comments yesterday to me are enough to get the rank and file's attention and not vote that way. It could have been done differently.
And this is where, they don't like each other and they don't trust one another right now. They don't. Tony Clark and Rob Manfred do not have a good relationship. The players and the owners right now do not like each other, and they don't trust one another. So the owners are trying to say what David Sampson pointed out. Hey, this is a one-time deal. We're not interested in when the CBA's up in a year and a half. We're not going to propose a revenue sharing. This is a coronavirus thing. Players don't trust them.
Nope.
And the players' feeling is if we give you this one time, then you will beat us about the head and chest forever going, well, why can't we do this going forward? Look how well this worked out. It was for the good of the game, blah, blah, blah. And that's why the players are never going to give it if it's going to be framed this way. I think I thought the owners had a chance to get the players to give them like 10% back, but not in the form of a revenue share, just in the form of, like many employers are doing with their employees right now, hey, I'm going to need you all to take a 10 or whatever % pay cut. And the employees are, working is better than not working. And hey, we kind of understand this is all on you. We get it.
Yeah, I don't think the union's got a slush fund that's going to give them 50% or more of their salaries for the year if they don't play.
Right. So, but David Sampson's confident financially they'll work it out. I'm not so sure. I mean, because let's face it, they've already canceled the playoffs and the World Series once before. I mean, so let's not doubt that these two sides can walk off a cliff together, because they've done it before.
And this week has been different to David and I, in that every week prior, the NBA and the NHL have been routinely out there talking about where they're going to go. And all of the sudden over the weekend, largely the NHL and NBA have disappeared from conversation. The NHL talked about a 24-team playoff proposal and coming right back for the playoffs that was put out Thursday or Friday last week. The NBA has not said much in the past few days, if anything at all.
In fact, what they have said has made it seem as if 2020 is over. I mean, Adam Silver said that out loud late last week. He wondered whether or not they're even going to be able to play. Shaq came out and said, I think they should just put the season in mothballs. They should be done. They should be thinking about next year and whether they're going to start in October, November, December, or January, or whatever the case may be. Adam Silver went so far as to say, hey, 2021 could be in jeopardy. And if you think about it rationally, whether you agree or not, look at it from where Adam Silver's coming from. If we can't finish this year because of the coronavirus, then in theory, how can we start next year? Because in theory, we won't have a vaccine yet. So what Adam Silver was basically throwing out there is, are we going to be able to play a day before there's a vaccine? Which goes back to Kirk Herbstreit's interview 6 weeks ago when he was asked about, so what do you think in college football-wise? He's like, I'll see you in 2021. Well, what do you mean? Well, I'm not going to have a vaccine until the spring of 2021. I don't see how we play without one. And he took a lot of grief for it. I mean, you might not agree, but, I mean, it's not like the train of thought was asinine or anything.
No. And he got blasted because he was the first one in any walk of life to really say something like that.
Right.
I mean, there was nobody out there saying, yeah, I don't think I need to be working until there's a vaccine. Now, people have said it since, but at the time, we weren't even, this is long before Brad Pitt says, well, relatively quickly is 18 months. Your friend would be relatively pissed off if you showed up then. We didn't even get to that then.
No.
So it was out there.
Now, we contend they're going to play.
They're playing football in the fall.
Why? Money, period. I'm sorry. And yes, and we even think, now we think that it can't be rationalized, but I even think that they will play even if there are not kids on campus. I mean, that's how much I think they're going to use these football players. I mean, that you might as well call them drug mules. I mean, that honestly, there's so much money at stake here. I'm sorry. They are going to put these kids at risk.
And the kids will put themselves at risk
their hand
because, as Pat said, and he'll say it probably again, they're already they're having to figure out, do I need to be looking at last year's film for next year's draft if there's no season? I mean, I've got a kid 2 doors down whose buddy should be, if he can rehab, is going to be the starting center at Purdue as a junior. He's 6'4", 305 pounds. You think this kid's going to take a season off when he's got a shot to play in the league?
Right.
You're nuts.
You think if he's asked, hey, you willing to risk? Yes.
Yeah, you've been busting your ass rehabbing your shoulder since week 5 of last year. You going to take next year off?
That's what young people do. Are you willing to risk? And you don't have to ask the rest of the question. They say yes.
Yes.
It's part of being young. Now, if you ask their parents, that's a different answer.
But see, they're young adults, and their parents can't make those decisions for them anymore. Not in all cases.
Yeah. I don't know if you're still living at home and mom and dad are still controlling the money. I know legally what it says, but we all know the real world. That's when legally in the real world enter the equation.
Right. And I know what I'd have done at 20. I'd have looked right at my mom and dad and said, you're hysterical. I'm going to go play football.
And that's fine. And in other households, the parents would be like, well, that's good. We're going to lock the doors and you can't get out. And that's how we run this ship.
Right.
So,
and I'd look at him again and say, I'm 6'4", 300. There's not a door you can stop that's going to keep me from leaving.
But, it depends on the household. I mean, it just does.
Yeah, I don't know a house that could keep a 20-year-old man from leaving it. That's the question.
I do.
17-year-old man, sure.
But David Sampson, if you missed our discussion, and we download every hour of the show, has its own podcast. It's called the Connecticut Cast, thanks to Connecticut Quality Water Systems, Southwest Florida, 908-2300. But he also focused very much on safety. And one, I think that's interesting to hear from a guy who was a longtime executive in the league, because that's not what's being talked about publicly. But also, just like when we have Seth Everett on, and he lives in North Jersey, and that is the hot spot in the nation, the New York metropolitan area. Well, where's David Sampson call home? Miami, Fort Lauderdale area, Southeast Florida, which is one of the hot spots in this country. And so it is very much on his and their mind over there, where it is not as much on people's minds elsewhere in the country. And they hear Seth or David Sampson talk and they go, come on, guys, take a breath, relax. And those guys go, no. You walk in my shoes, what it's like here. Oh, no. No, this is a very serious deal, and the rest of you are not taking it as seriously. Mark, do you think the players, as we head to break, do you think the players would abide by the restrictions that David Sampson, who wrote them down, and it's on CBSSports.com, he released them yesterday. Do you think the players would follow the rules?
No, not close. Not even close. Not 10% of the rules that he implemented.
Which is why it all goes back to the very first thing that we said 8 weeks ago. These leagues have to decide what are they going to do when someone tests positive, because they're going to. And if you can't answer that question, everything else is irrelevant. Miller and Moulton. Today was the day when. Coming up, Pat Kerwin in 40 minutes here on Southwest Florida's Fox Sports Radio.
Drive home with the Doug
I did not realize. Did you realize that the AHL hadn't canceled their season?
No.
Okay,
In fact, I thought all the minor leagues announced that they had canceled their respective.
Thank you. Okay, because when I saw this AHL thing yesterday, I'm like, well, what? Wait a minute. They're just doing this now?
It was worse.
Doug Gottlieb afternoons at 3 on Southwest Florida's Fox Sports Radio.
For professional roofing, the name you need to know is D.R. Martineau.
I don't know, but Guy Fieri, and I'm not even much of a Guy Fieri fan anymore, although I still like that drivers, dine-ins, and drive-ins and dives. But is it doing a nacho showdown against Bill Murray Friday on the Food Network? Oh, I am in. Love me a nacho. In fact, had the tuna, the ahi tuna nacho at the Snook Inn when I was out in a restaurant on Saturday. A packed restaurant, Seth. Social distancing packed, but packed.
Free for 4 months, interest free for 6 years, and worry free up to 100,000 miles. Below invoice and full pricing at Galliana Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram. GallianaCars.com.
Pool need a checkup? Call the doctor, the Pool Doctor.
Hi, Dr. Mark here. LED color-changing pool lights can create an after-dark
Cleveland
backyard
appliance
oasis.
commercial.
Pick your color or select one of the light shades. You can see how dramatic it really is on our
We're
website.
talking Cleveland, folks.
From washers, dryers, from Cleveland. For the
repairs and unheard of $39
Never understood
diagnostic
it.
calls. That's
God, we laughed. They spent
or
big
Fortune.
for about a year.
State certified CPC.
For scratch and dent appliances.
We're all stuck at home.
Cleveland,
We're
folks.
finding out more about ourselves. Like sweats, our all-day attire. There was a reason you ate takeout
And remember,
all the
she
time.
had like the knee brace on?
Yeah.
Yeah, she had a knee brace
all
on.
that toilet paper. And you found out that
Never
we're the
understood
ones
it.
You've been listening to during these crazy times. We're Fox Sports Radio.
Hey, y'all, it's Billy Bob, Bubba's brother. And he got that super duper job at that super duper company, and now I can too. Last week I was a dishwasher, but now I is a super duper plumber. I mean,
Boy, that's, you're Hops, you're on to something there. An old commercial bracket. I'd love to just get, I want to get SOB back on because, well, he's really good friends with the CEO of the place we used to work, and it would just be so great. Because he'd do it just because he likes us.
Incredible damage, and they're really just out to sell. They make huge commissions, and they really have no clue as to what they're doing. If you want your pool guy,
But I don't know how you get past. I mean, really, in Cleveland, is there? It's such a one seed. I don't even know what would be the 4 1 seeds of old commercials.
Mechanic and not Billy Bob the dishwasher. Call Kobe Cooling.
Well, first off, you may have to go back to Fusilla with Fusilla doing them. I mean, he hasn't done an ad in this market in like 2 years.
No.
He's got everybody else doing them. I think if you bring back Huge, that'd be a 1 seed.
Visible from the ground, and you may very well be entitled to a new roof for little or no money out of pocket. But you only have a 3-year window to make a claim, and time is running out. If you have a tile or shingle roof and live between Port Charlotte and Marco Island, call us at 239-283-2013. It's a free, no-obligation inspection that can benefit you in the form of a new roof.
My favorite,
we deal with the insurance carrier for you.
I don't even think they're in business anymore.
Again, time is running out.
Bobby Collins used to do Gulf Coast Dodge.
Yes. Golf.
Yeah,
golf.
Because he wouldn't say golf.
He couldn't say the L.
He had the Kentucky accent, and he would
golf. Gulf Coast Dodge.
Yeah, golf or guff. All right.
This is
Still love
Miller
those.
and Moulton.
You're live.
11 minutes before the top of the hour. Pat Kerwin to join us in a little more than a half an hour here on Miller and Moulton, Southwest Florida's Fox Sports Radio. Our poll question, which you can go to that Mark Miller, the David Moulton, or millerandmoulton.com and answer. Whose side are you on The baseball players or the baseball owners? The owners asking the players to take an additional pay cut. Players are only going to get paid for the games that they play, which I think makes sense to all of us. But that had to be negotiated. And so now the owners want the players to absorb some of the financial hit that the sport is going to take because of the coronavirus. And the players are like, no, we're good. No, we're fine. You know, you're the owners. You got a slush fund. You got a lot more money than us. Oh, well, we're fine just the way it is. So whose side are you on? Players or owners? That Mark Miller, the David Moulton, MillerandMoulton.com. 10 minutes before the hour. Time now for
Miller and Moulton's Today Was the Day When, giving you the history of today's date so you're a beacon of useless knowledge around the office.
Useless, but a lot of fun to talk about.
This is Today Was the Day When, Fox Sports Radio and FoxSportsFM.com.
We start today in 1963 when Bob Dylan was scheduled to appear on the Ed Sullivan Show. He walked out on Ed Sullivan.
Why?
He had done a song, was going to do a song. Ed heard the song, was fine with it. Right before the show, the CBS folks said, yeah, we don't like the words in this song. It was a song that kind of poked fun at communism, but had some lines they didn't like, and they wanted him to not play it or change the lyrics. And he said no. And there was this long story that he was a jerk about it. And the producer of the show says, no, not at all. We asked him to change it, and he said, I really want to play that song. And they said, well, he couldn't. He said, well, if I can't play that song, then I would rather not appear on the show. Thank you. Shook their hand and left. Still managed to, I mean, he's a nobody, by the way. Blowing in the Wind.
This is 1963.
Yeah, Blowing in the Wind's been done by Peter, Paul, and Mary. So they, as a songwriter, people are aware of Dylan, but this is before the Newport Folk Fest, and he's becoming a star.
Right.
And he told Ed Sullivan, the largest show on the planet, yeah, I'm good.
No, I'm good.
Wow.
Good luck. Have a nice night.
Yeah. 1967, Are You Experienced? Released by the Jimi Hendrix Experience, one of the most influential debut albums ever. On this day in 1970, Ernie Banks hits his 500th home run. 1973, the 6th ABA championship, the Pacers beat the Colonels in 7.
They beat Kentucky?
Border war.
I was going to say, they bust back and forth.
Damn right they did. Damn right they did.
Dan Issel for Kentucky, I think.
Yes.
I think he was done playing his college ball. I think he was in the ABA by then.
The USFL formed today in 1982.
They didn't start playing until 83, though.
Right. Pulp Fiction premieres at the Cannes Film Festival today in 1994. Tiger wins his second Players today in 2013. Boy, really battled off some top players as David Lingmerth, Jeff Maggart, and Kevin Streelman couldn't get it done against one Eldrick Woods.
I was going to say, a lot of majors in that trio
right
there.
And by majors, you mean their own club championships.
I was going to say, not PGA Tour.
If you were born today, you share your birthday with Katharine Hepburn, born today in 1907. Yogi Berra was born today in 1925. The great George Carlin, born today in 1937. Billy Squire, Stroke Me, is 70.
In the dark, baby. In the dark.
Bernie Federko is 64, which is the same age as Homer Simpson. According to the show, born today in 1956.
Okay. All right. Who looks better, Bernie Federko or Homer Simpson?
Federko, close.
Wasn't that a great hockey name?
It's a great hockey
back
name.
In the day, we didn't know anybody on the St. Louis Blues except Bernie Federko. I mean, until Brett Hull. Maybe in between Federko and Hull was Mike Lewitt.
Yes,
there for
their
a couple
goalie.
Years, the goalie.
The goalie.
Right.
I will say Federko was part of the management of their roller hockey team. And so when I went with the Atlanta Fire Ants into St. Louis in that great barn, I'm just kind of standing there and watching practice. And who walked up at Bernie Federko? And I'm pretty young in the business. And to sit there and spend 45 minutes at a practice just shooting the bull with Bernie Federko was really cool for me at 23.
Did you say Atlanta Fire Ants?
Yes. The Atlanta Fire Ants.
Yeah, you said it really quickly. You just kind of slipped that in there. I just wanted to make sure everybody got
Fire Ants on a power play.
Right, you were broadcasting the Fire Ants game.
Roller Hockey International. I've got the media guide somewhere. Got to do games in the Odd.
I know.
The Forum, Montreal Forum, the Igloo in Pittsburgh, and the St. Louis Sports Arena. So make fun of the Fire Ants all you want. I got to call games in 4 great hockey barns.
Before coronavirus crowds, I'm sure.
Right. Lou Whitaker is 63 today. Dave Christian, part of that gold medal team, is 61. Emilio Estevez is 58. And skateboarder Tony Hawk is 52 years old. And that is today was the day when here on this May the 12th.
Well, you think about it, all those Miracle on Ice guys, they're all in their early 60s.
And someone chimed in on Twitch, not the Omni. The Omni was the home building. Okay? I had keys to the Omni. I snuck in the back door of the Omni for Steely Dan and the Grateful Dead.
That is your, obviously outside of your wife and your kids, honestly, your greatest achievement in this industry. The one that you speak most proudly of is there was a point in my career where I had the keys to the Omni.
To the Omni. There was, but you know, it's my first job in the business. I'm 22, 23 years old.
Mark.
And first off, just parking underneath the Omni, David.
That's a big deal.
Just pulling in and going, man, you get to pull back. And we used to play double headers. We'd play a 1 o'clock hockey game and a 7:30 Hawks game.
1 minute.
And I remember my mom and my stepdad coming down to a game, and they're waiting for me after, and we're walking out the bowels of the Omni. And I go to open the door, and it opened to the outside. And I opened it not quickly, and I almost hit Lenny Wilkins, who was the coach of the Hawks. And I didn't know him, but faces, we knew each other. So I'm like, hey, coach. He's like, hey, how are you? And my mom, who was a big sports fan, she's doing double takes all the way to the car. She's like, that was Lenny Wilkins. I'm like, yeah, he coaches the Hawks.
Right.
But we're going through the same door. I'm like, well, that's kind of the way it goes when you work in the Omni. So yeah, we used to break into a high school gym when I was younger to play basketball, not to steal anything. And the fact that I could take the keys and the basketball and go shoot around at the Omni is the single coolest thing I've done as an adult. Yes.
I know.
Pat Kerwin, next hour. Miller and Moulton. Thanks for listening. Fox Sports Radio.
We've got our good friend Tim Meister, owner of the Four Meisters in Naples, on the phone. We're talking about their huge...
Yes, I do read the chat. What's my opinion on Kyler Murray? I think Kyler Murray's a hell of a football player. But he's the second year in the league, and they're not that good yet. So we shall see. But that division's as intriguing as there is in football right now. Because you got Russell Wilson, you got Jimmy Garoppolo, and you got Kyler Murray. This is somebody new, David. That's why.
There are a lot of people talking up the Arizona Cardinals this year because they finished strong. And they think that Murray and that offense are catching on. Add DeAndre Hopkins. I mean, if Larry Fitz is your number 3 wide receiver,
right,
you might be okay on offense. And I know their line is not that good, but you can overcome that right now.
And Drake can catch the ball out of the backfield.
You really owe yourself to visit the store. 6281 Naples Boulevard, right next to Costco, or go online.
No. No, we do not, Jack.
We do not what?
No, I'm fine with Premier League football. I know exactly what you meant. Occasionally, but I'm not going to be able to break down games. I'm a Man City guy from way back because there was a boxer by the name of Ricky Hatton who was into Man City, so that's why I picked them.
West Ham.
You're a West Ham guy, right? Because of your neighbor.
My friend, when I was 8 years old in the apartment complex, Chris Lewis was his name. They were from across the pond, and that was their team, and they introduced me to West Ham, and they're never any good. They face relegation more often than they contend.
Money's always been going into their Jackaroo. No doubt. We're well aware where the money is. We point that out to our listeners often, that when the Forbes list comes out of the top paid athletes, that soccer players and F1 drivers are a lot higher up on the list than anybody in this country ever realizes.
sports station with balls. And strikes. We also have strikes. WFSX AM from Naples to Cape Coral and all of Southwest Florida. We are Fox.
Curious to see how this progresses, Mark. Just how many of us are going to be on site for games.
When you ask me about the media, why would I if I'm running a team?
Well, I would let the guys who are doing play-by-play, I would actually want them at the game.
I would too. No, I'm talking about, because how do I differentiate from the Miami Herald in that 5, you know what I mean? I know they're, but the one sports site that Miami started over there. If I let the Herald guy in, I got to let the internet guy. I can't start saying you get in and you don't.
Well, but you can, actually. See, I think in a worldwide pandemic, you can change the rules.
I got you, but who is it you change them for? You're gonna screw your local guy, or are you gonna screw the national guy? I mean,
and the other reason why I think you've got to have a media policy is because in most baseball cities, the newspapers travel. I mean, the New York and Philly and Boston and St. Louis and Chicago guys, they go everywhere.
Right.
To wake up in the morning.
And the others
cover this hard.
Well, they're actually competing with others in their market to be better at it. It matters. Because there is nobody worse at the bro hug than one David Moulton.
And Moulton.
I used to be. 2019, I found my bro hug crew.
Southwest Florida's Fox Sports Radio.
All guests appear on the Goldberg Noon Abraham hotline. Goldberg-law.com.
Oh, I like
It's up to you now. It's up to you.
I like it.
Now, the best local sports show this town has ever heard. Here's Miller and Moulton.
You're live.
Couple minutes past 8 o'clock on this Tuesday, the 12th of May. Thanks so much for being with us. Hope you're hanging in there and at least doing okay. I know tough times for many. Hopefully they'll get better. Miller and Moulton, Southwest Florida's Fox Sports Radio, streaming at foxsportsfm.com and broadcasting live on the Miller and Moulton YouTube and Twitch TV channels. You can always chime into the show via the Williamson Brothers Marine and Roofing text and talk line at 479-5551, 479-5551. Our poll question at that Mark Miller or the David Moulton on Twitter or millerandmoulton.com is MLB owners asking the players to take a pay cut to help them out during the coronavirus. Players are not inclined to do so. No, we're good. Whose side are you on? Owners or players?
2-1 right now in favor of, or on the side rather, of the players, which shocked the hell out of me. When we did this question, you know what I thought was going to win.
Well, and also in this market, it's owners, management, the leagues have always won all of these poll questions that we have done over 13 years. For what it's worth, I did this topic on a national show Saturday afternoon. It was 57% owners. So it was 4 out of 7 owners, 3 out of 7 players.
I am
nationally.
Right. That's nationally, I would think it would be like this. Locally, I would think it would be like your national show. I really do.
Totally agree.
I mean, we are a conservative market. We tend to lean more with management here. I think it does show you, however, that this is an indicator to me that everybody in this market has taken it in the shorts a little bit financially, and they're going, no. You already told these guys to take a pay cut. They said they would. I'm not so sure they need to take another one. I actually believe this is a little bit of real-life Southwest Florida reality because, as I've mentioned, and I keep talking about to people outside of sports, is that we get unemployment numbers and we get all these different numbers. There's this whole segment of the population that's still doing some sort of work, making somewhere between 20 and 50% of what they were making just so they can keep having a job.
The pay cut that Mark referenced it's about 7 weeks ago now that the owners and players essentially negotiated an addendum to their existing CBA in which they agreed upon about 4 things going forward in 2020. And one of them is the players said, hey, we're only going to get paid for the games we play. Now, and you may say, well, that makes sense. Yes, but remember, in baseball, 95% of the contracts are guaranteed. you could legally argue guaranteed means guaranteed, whether you play one game or 162. So that's why that had to be negotiated. You may have a $20 million guaranteed contract, but in the coronavirus year of 2020, if you only play half the games, you're only going to get $10 million. That may make sense to all of us, but that's why you have a CBA and the negotiations. But the players contend that's it. That's all the money we're giving back. The owners are like, we're going to lose $3 to $4 billion worth of revenue here with no fans. So we'll see where it goes. Where are you, by the way, 14-team playoff as opposed to 10 normally? And I'm assuming with 7 in each league, that means the 1 seed would get a bye and we'd have a first round, I don't know, best of 3.
I'd like to see what the proposal is. I thought maybe there would be – see, I actually thought there was going to – with 7 on each side, David, there'd be 3 division winners, and there would be either a one-gamer for everyone. I mean, I don't know what the hell they're going to do.
My guess is they'll take the 3 division winners and then the 4 best records after that. I think they'll reward so that at least there's 1 team from each division that makes the playoffs.
And then the next 4 best, and then they're going to have to, 2-7?
Right, 3, 6, 4, 5.
I mean,
which is how they're going to do it in the NFL this year.
Yeah.
Only the 1 seed gets the
right,
bye.
but they only play 1 game in the NFL, David. We're now taking the number 1 seed in baseball and telling them to take a week off. I don't like that at all.
Well, it may just be 3 days. They may force these teams to play boom, boom, boom. I'm just assuming it's a best of 3. I'd be shocked if it'd be a 1-gamer. I mean, that would say 2 against 7. And
in a 1 game,
1 game,
right? It doesn't.
And they advance, so that's
got to be a best of 3.
That's what I would.
I would love them to be smart enough that it's a best of 3, all in the top seeds venue. We don't have time to travel. We don't need travel days. We'll be starved for entertainment. Play the damn games.
Universal DH for this year.
Forever.
Okay with it?
Yes,
Well,
I am forever. You know that I am.
The players would be fine with that. I mean, I just think the owners will go back in 2021, the final year of the current deal. They'll go back to the old rules.
And then
most people then believe in the next CBA, we're going to have the universal DH.
And for the record, if you're listening for the first time, I would have pitchers bat until the end of time in both leagues. But David and I have talked about this on the show for at least 5 years, if not longer. It just doesn't make any sense to us. Pitchers quit hitting in high school.
Right.
They don't hit in college.
The minors.
They don't hit in the minors. And then all of a sudden they make it to their National League club and you put a bat back in their hands. It makes absolutely 0 sense to pay pitchers what you pay them and let them bat.
Miller and Moulton prefer the National League style of ball. And quite frankly, if you've got an out at the end of the lineup, the game moves a little faster. You can save a few minutes with that, all but certain out. But we believe that they're going to go universal DH. If they're going to go in either direction, the Players Association would never allow 15 high-paying jobs like that to go by the wayside.
And for perspective, it would be in basketball that in the Eastern Conference, the home team, 3-pointers weren't allowed. But in the Western Conference, you could shoot 3-pointers. Or in AFC games, you had to get 2 feet in bounds. And in NFC games, you only had to get 1 foot in bounds. I mean, that's how, if you really think about this, how dramatically different the game is and how you build your roster.
It is preposterous that this major sport in our country has, for over 45 years now, had the rules difference that they've had.
When they didn't have interleague play, it was great. There was a nuance about the National League versus the American League, and it made the World Series fun to strategize how games would work out. But now that we're playing interleague games every single day, this makes no sense anymore.
The owners have proposed an 82-game season. I think the players are going to want it to be 100 because since they're getting paid by the game, they're going to want to play more games. But let's just say anywhere from 80 to 100 games. A, are you okay with that? B, schedule by geography. The East will play the East in both leagues, Central, West.
I'm not going to worry about that's just stuff to me.
Okay.
You know, I mean, that's the easiest part. It's 1 year, deal with it, doesn't matter, whatever the games are. I thought the best point that David Sampson made when we had him on last hour was he thinks 80 is the right number because he thinks it's very unrealistic that we could actually start at the beginning of July.
Right. He thinks August 1's the date, therefore play 80 games over 3 months, August, September, October, and have the playoffs in neutral sites in November. Speaking of sites, Mark, right now the plan is people play in their home ballparks. Now, in some cities, even without fans, I don't know if current restrictions would prevent that. But if we're talking July or August, the hope is that at least if it's an empty ballpark, that the games will be allowed to happen, as opposed to the proposals that have been out there of Florida, Arizona, Texas, only Arizona. It looks as if they've decided to scrap all that. They're just going to play where they normally play.
Yeah, that's all well and good in theory. There are so many states that aren't going to allow gatherings. We'll see what July holds, but even for June, where are these teams going to prepare to get ready for their season if their state is not yet open? And it seems that baseball, basketball, hockey, and maybe to a lesser extent football at this point, really aren't on the same page as these governors. And I find this to be an interesting argument going forward.
Well, in theory, we've got about a month in a best-case scenario until these teams would start working out. June 8th is a Monday. Most people believe the week of the 8th, the week of the 15th, the week of the 22nd. That'd be 3 full weeks. And then the week of June 29th, midway through it, obviously, between July 1st and July 4th, the season would start. So these teams would have about 3.5 weeks to work out. My understanding is in the proposal there will be no spring training games. That you can schedule an inter-squad game, but that the Mets and the Yankees are not going to play a week's worth of games against one another. That's not going to happen. Would you be okay? And some of the other things that we kicked around, would you be okay if college football, the conferences just played conference games?
Would love it, actually. I would love it.
I wish the SEC and the Big Ten actually would do it, and I understand that means a 13-game regular season, but I think it would be for lack of a better word, the neatest thing to have for 1 year. Everybody just play everybody. Now, we know they wouldn't do it. All right. They might do 12 of the 13 and decide for whatever reason that, there's one team in the rotation we're going to miss. Because the one thing we know, Mark, is that if we have a quote unquote college football season, these conferences are not giving up their conference championship game. So the argument that you could make, hey, if they'd be willing to give that game up, then they could play everybody. Yeah, that ain't happening.
No. Now, I can fix that in the Big Ten. We just leave Rutgers out for this year.
Well, don't laugh. There's a possibility Rutgers may leave Rutgers out.
I know.
This year.
I know. Now, Vanderbilt could voluntarily do it in the SEC.
Aha!
Because no one else would volunteer.
No. Absolutely. But they would.
Yes.
How about this? Here's the deal. Vandy will make a deal with you. You sit the year out, and we'll still cut you in on all the media.
Bingo.
Shows. That administration would agree to it yesterday.
Yep.
The coaches and the players would be outraged. And here's the other thing you make a deal. Vandy goes, if we have bowl games, do we get to go to a
Yes,
bowl?
You're eligible. You're 500.
We'll put you in the Independence Bowl. Sure. Absolutely. That'll be your game this year.
In fact, Vandy, we'll schedule you a 12-game schedule of D2 opponents and see how you do.
This affects a few locals. Florida Tech, a D2 school in Melbourne, Florida, dropped its football program yesterday. There were only 2 Division II football programs in the state of Florida. Florida Tech in Melbourne and West Florida in Pensacola. And so it affects a few local athletes who had scholarships and were playing at Florida Tech. 120 players and 8 coaches affected. School made the decision because of the coronavirus to save money. And Mark, When's the last time you paid for a boxing match?
Oh, it's been a while for me. You know, I've sworn the sport off after the first Triple G Canelo Alvarez fight. So that's the last one I paid for.
The last fight that I paid for, I went over a friend's house to watch Mayweather-Pacquiao. So, you know, I threw some money into the, although I don't even know if he charged me, actually, but invited me over for the fight. But in theory, that's the last pay-per-view fight that I watched. I asked the question because, and you know what, Mark, this could be our poll question for tomorrow.
Look at you.
I'm just throwing it right out there.
Way to go. I'm off. I love this.
If 53-year-old Mike Tyson is in fact attempting a comeback, would you pay to watch him fight?
Depends on the fighter. I mean, if he were to get something, I probably wouldn't watch the first one because he'll get a warm-up fight to try to beat somebody up. But if he were to get a Fury, you know, if he were to get one of the big boys that would just kill him.
Okay.
Because Mike couldn't take a punch in his prime.
No, that's totally not true. I totally disagree with you. Mike Tyson actually had a hell of a chin. Totally disagree with you on that.
Hell, I disagree with you. I think he won on intimidation most of the time and never got hit a whole lot in his first 40 fights. But I think he would get these guys are so much bigger than him.
No doubt. Never mind, obviously half his age. All right, but
I'd watch it.
Throwing that out there.
I'd watch it.
And I don't know how many people remember when George Foreman, after, I mean, Mark, what was it? Nearly a 15-year layoff?
Yeah.
I mean, Foreman, walked away in like 77. And George Foreman, 12 or so years later, decides, you know what? I'm feeling good. I'm in a different place. I'm going to attempt a comeback. And people didn't take it seriously. But Foreman put in the time and put in the work, but also, Mark, they scheduled a series of fights. He didn't just fight twice, and then all of a sudden Holyfield gave him a shot for the title. Foreman fought for like 2+ years, like every other month he was on USA Network and a couple of others back in the day, and George was fighting. He was fighting, and he was beating everybody. Yeah, he was still fat, and people didn't think that he could come back and win the heavyweight title. But eventually fought his way to the point where when Holyfield gave him a shot at the title, people didn't think it was a joke. People were like, well, he's got a puncher's chance, and okay, Holyfield beat him. Then George goes back, and he's fighting sparingly and what have you. Michael Moore beats Holyfield, and Foreman and his people, because Michael Moore was not a big draw fighter, and so to get people to buy a Michael Moore fight, all right, they said, hey, would you fight Foreman? Yeah, sure. And Foreman knocked him out.
George Foreman is 6'4", and when he was fighting, weighed 260+ pounds in those fights. Mike Tyson's 5'10", 5'11". Tyson Fury and Wilder, and these guys are 6'7".
They are. There's no doubt about it.
He would get eaten alive. Would I pay for it? Absolutely.
Well, and that's what I was asking.
I'm just telling you, he's got no shot, but I'll pay to watch that. Hell yes. Watch someone knock that tattoo right off of his face.
There's also another big difference. Foreman was in his early 40s when he started the comeback, and in his mid-40s when he ultimately reclaimed the heavyweight championship. Mike Tyson is 53. So in theory, Tyson would be doing this 10 years after Foreman even began his journey. But just wondering, would you pay for, and I'm with you, I would not pay for the first few fights, but if Mike Tyson over the course of a year, like beat 4 guys, and they were determined that all 4 had a pulse, in which all of a sudden now he was in a position where, because we've got, 3 heavyweights? That people actually think are pretty good. We got 3 of them right now. And if Tyson a year from now could fight his way to saying, you know what, fine, throw him in the ring with one of these 3 guys.
Right. Okay, I'll be the Andy Roddick to the big 3.
Yeah, I'm in.
Well,
sure.
here
I'll be Andy Murray.
Andy Murray. I'll tell you what, I give. I I give one marketing ploy for you. This is my free marketing ploy for the week.
Okay.
If I'm ESPN and Tyson's serious, I sign him to 4 fights inside of 16 months. Tyson always fought a lot. So I don't know could he do 4 in 16 months, 4 in 18 months? Put him on ESPN Plus.
Well, I was thinking DAZN, which is struggling.
Well,
and if you're DAZN, yes, but one of these pay-per-view services.
But Plus, I'm not buying DAZN. No interest.
Okay.
But I'm on the verge of buying Plus because there's stuff there that I wouldn't mind watching. FGCU Sports, for instance. But it's not, even though it's only $5 a month, there's been not enough. All of a sudden, I can watch some Tyson fights.
You'd be in?
I think that might really help that ESPN Plus crowd.
So just throwing it out there, would you, if he's serious and he's gotten himself in the best shape he's been in 25 years, and he proclaimed last night, I'm back. Well, we'll see. But if, in fact, Mike Tyson would attempt a comeback, would you be interested? Could be our poll question for tomorrow. Would you buy a Tyson fight? And we're not talking Mike Tyson 1988. We're talking Mike Tyson 2020. I don't think it's going to happen, but it's being talked about. And, Mark, what do we know? Money rules the day.
And Mike probably could use a little bit, even with all the stuff he's doing.
Who couldn't? Miller and Moulton. Pat Kerwin will join us next to talk all things NFL. Thanks so much for being with us. Southwest Florida's Fox Sports Radio.
A date which will live in infamy. People who knock these buildings down will hear all of it.
Amazing comebacks. That inspired the American story. And before you know it, another great American comeback story.
In stopping the virus,
will be in the books.
we will have a great victory.
Our story continues.
And return to our lives, great lives.
On Southwest Florida's Fox Sports Radio.
Dial star 2020. France Eye Care.
Attention community heroes, France Eye Care would like to express our appreciation for all that you do as you serve on the front lines. And that's why we're offering $1,500 off bilateral LASIK for first responders. All EMTs, firefighters, police officers, and critical care workers in hospitals and minor emergency clinics are eligible to receive this benefit through May 31st. Dr. Jonathan France, one of the original pioneers in the field of LASIK surgery, and his expert team of surgeons at France Eye Care want to help you experience better vision and a better life without the hassle of contacts and glasses. In addition to this amazing $1,500 off LASIK special, France Eye Care now offering free LASIK screenings through virtual consultations. Dial star 2020 from your mobile phone to schedule a virtual consultation at a convenient time for you. Thank you, first responders.
France Eye Care.
Pool need a checkup? Call the doctor, the Pool Doctor.
Hi, Dr. Mark here. Clients love their salt system for silky smooth water, less
This
maintenance,
is where.
and they never buy
All right,
chlorine.
Mark
If
the
you want
Disney.
ultimate, we can add a BioShield UV water disinfection.
I didn't realize
Family
that.
company. And for over 40 years, we've been doing business right.
So Disney Plus, Hulu, and ESPN Plus combined are $13 a month. I actually disagree with Mark. I think the $5 a month for ESPN Plus is a bargain for everything that they have on there normally. Problem now is, of course, they have no sports. I haven't spent the money just because.
C4MH.com continues to disinfect daily with Microban 24. All patients and staff wear masks, and they will provide you with.
We'll say, though, when FGCU, the conference that they're in, moved their games from ESPN 3, which is still free, to ESPN Plus, that FGCU lost over half its viewership just because their games went from free to $5 a month. And if you think about it, the basketball season's 4 months, 5 maybe.
How much time we got left, Jero?
Just confirmed that C4MH.com wants frontline healthcare.
Minute and a half.
Thank you.
C4MH.com, the leaders in low T care.
94.1 Estero. No matter where you're boating, with Towboat US, you're covered by the world's largest towing fleet with over 300 ports nationwide.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Your local
I
Towboat
think
US companies in
I actually
Charlotte,
think the
Lee, and
$5 a
Collier
month
counties are here to help
is a
24/7,
steal
365 days a
for
year.
everything that they offer.
River to Laco and out
They've got like 2 to 3 million subscribers.
Morning, Pat.
Hello, Mark. How are you, man?
I'm good, man. How are you?
Always good here. Sunny Southwest Florida.
Got that right.
How you hitting them?
Someone take a chance on purchasing a
I'm
frameless
hitting
shower
a
door
lot
from a big
since
box
the
store or an
draft
online
is over.
discounter.
So, but
with an
I don't
obscure
like
brand.
playing. I'll tell you the
And
truth.
then try and
I
find
don't
a
like playing
licensed,
more than 3
qualified
days a week.
installer to put it in. When you can deal directly
It's
with
about
a
the
local,
4th day I go,
family-owned
I'm
business
getting a
that
little tired of
consults,
this. So
measures,
if I can play 3
manufactures,
days, every
and
other day I
installs
feel good.
their
So
own
I'm
award-winning
playing
brand of
Wednesday,
shower doors.
Friday, and
My Shower Door is a family-owned
I
and
don't know,
operated business.
maybe
It has
Sunday.
the
But
highest
so
ratings
that's
in
my
Angie's
schedule. I
List
get the same
and
guys I
Home
play with all the
Advisor.
time,
Wanna see
and,
more?
and no one
Go to
went home. They're all here.
This
So
is
it's
Brian
kind of
Creel
fun.
here with my son Trace from Creel Tractor Company. We are open for business and taking all precautions necessary. We have teamed up with Kubota Tractor to
How's
offer
Joe doing?
curbside pickup for your parts and parts delivery. And the
Who?
service department is open and ready to assist with any repairs here
How's who doing?
or at your location. Kubota is offering discounts on parts.
Oh, he said,
for
how's your
Kubota
show
products.
doing?
Oh, you know what?
For 90
We're
days.
just
Doing
moving
well.
along. It's
Creel Tractor.
funny.
Pick up a great deal at
Just
Creel.
keep on doing it, you know?
Good.
Yeah.
Any feedback from the front office guys from Fox?
No. Think they're aware we're still working.
Rumor has it.
Here we go.
Don't lose my address.
You're live.
$26 minutes past 8 o'clock. Thanks for being with us. Miller and Moulton, Southwest Florida's Fox Sports Radio, streaming foxsportsfm.com, broadcasting live on the Miller and Moulton YouTube and Twitch TV channels. Pat Kerwin, kind enough to join us once again. He of CBS Sports, also of NFL Radio, moving the chains weekday afternoons from 3 until 7. And Pat joins us courtesy of Pinchers from Tampa to Key West and many points in between and many points that are now open. Pinchers, because you can't fake fresh. Pat, how are you?
I'm doing fine, fellas. And, it's always an interesting world we're in today. I feel like I'm spending a lot of morning time on, okay, where will teams go if they have to leave their state to go practice? And, I got a couple places in my mind, but I don't think there's enough really suitable facilities unless some team actually splits with the team and lets them, work out at night or whatever. But the IMG Center, West Virginia at the Greenbrier, Disney here in Florida, maybe a minor league baseball stadium that you could convert for temporary use. But I do think that a lot of teams are going to have to move, and everyone's thinking about it. I've been to the Greenbrier many times. That is an outstanding football facility. They built a state-of-the-art center for physical treatment and dining halls and everything else, 3 practice fields. So I think someone should be smart enough to jump on that one as quick as possible.
Well, and, Pat, that's an excellent point because obviously a lot of these colleges aren't sure if they're going to open. So I can't imagine some of these college facilities are going to be jumping up and down saying, hey, before we bring the students back, could we bring 100 NFL players into our city for a week or two? I mean, some of the existing places may not be available.
No, I'm eliminating the colleges even from my train of thought. Now, maybe down in South Florida here, there might be some opportunity, but the California teams are going to have to get out of there, and it's really for 5 or 6 weeks. Schools, everyone likes to make money, and the NFL teams will pay handsomely to use a facility. It used to be in the old days, as all 3 of us know, almost everyone went away. Then they stopped going away, but I think you're going to have to look into these private facilities. So I think about the places teams go when they have back-to-back weeks on the East Coast, like a West Coast team. So the IMG Center has been used before, but teams that stay and use a college, I don't think they're going to be able to do that. So I think they got to fish around. But I did talk to Mickey Loomis about it, who used to be one of the residents in West Virginia there at the Briarcliff. So he said, yeah, I don't want to do it, but yeah, we have to be looking into it. We could be in a position we can't do it. And I see some teams are already, and this is funny to me, scheduling inter-squad practices together. So now all of a sudden you have 300 people on a field. And some of the limitations on the size of groups is going to eliminate that as well. So I don't know, it's complicated, but every so often I'll get a call from someone, and I got one yesterday. That's why I'm bringing up West Virginia. And they said, "You've been there?" "Yeah, I've been there." "What's it really like?" I said, "Well, it's a tremendously beautiful resort, so there's a chance for some distraction here. You may not feel like you're in the rugged football environment, but the football facility is superb, and they can put your team in an isolated area. So I think that'll appeal to you." But two teams have been there, the Texans and the Saints, and neither decided to renew. But we'll see. Beggars can't be choosy at this point. So, I think look around Florida. There might be some place with 3 fields next to each other in a hotel that'd be willing to surrender the whole place. But it's not for 2 weeks. It's going to be for a longer period of time. We hope.
Now, Pat, I'm going to put my cynic hat on here, in which, and I understand, we all do, what certain governors are saying now. But we also know that allowances get made. And oftentimes they get made for, well, people and things that are big deals. Well, the National Football League's a big deal. I mean, do these teams not think that their governor is not going to make an allowance for them? Because I happen to think that they will, that even the governors understand the significance, especially late July, early August. It's been months. And if they're moving forward, that, hey, do we have to move forward with them? Or are the people you're talking to of the belief that, no, we're not going to get any breaks?
Well, I think it's a universal question, David, with not a universal answer. You tell me the governor in California feels that way. I don't think there's any indications he's one of those guys who sees it as a good thing to do. Maybe in Jersey, where, you got to deal with the Giants and Jets over there. But what are they going to do if there's an outbreak at practice on the first day? Panic and say you got to close down? So there's a lot of different mindsets out there. I don't have any idea what the governor of Michigan's going to do. How much pressure is she going to be under? But what if Michigan and Michigan State aren't even having school? Is she going to feel that pressure? I don't know. Some teams have gone out of state before. I mean, the Bears used to leave and go to Wisconsin, and then they went down to
you had that whole cheese league there for a while. There was 4 to 6 teams that made up what we called the cheese league.
Yeah, at very small colleges, that facilities were adequate, and the reason they liked it, the Saints used to go up there, was the weather was decent, but they could scrimmage. They could get on a school bus and drive 40 miles and go against another team, and they used to do it with each other multiple times. So it was fun when I first got into the media end of it to go up there to Wisconsin and park myself right in the middle of the state and catch a scrimmage every day. But those are college campuses, and if they're not open, I doubt they're going to be there, which was Mark's point. I don't think the colleges are going to let them do it. But I do think the answer to your question, David, is a state or two might succumb to that. But what's the can of worms you just opened? Is football the only thing you're worrying about? Is the state fair? Oh, the state fair. We all know in some of these states, the state fair in the summer is a gigantic operation that makes a ton of money. Are you going to tell the football team can practice, but we can't have the state fair? So I think there's a lot of things that are going to be pressure points to say, yeah, that sounds like a good idea, but you can have practice, but there's no 4th of July parade. I don't know how many other things will get involved in this. But I do think every state's different. And one guy told me, he said, we might go out as far as a place like Montana. Where are you going to go in Montana is the question. So, as I said, down in Florida, I think you could do it. And I think some teams, like the Jersey teams, wouldn't you love it, David, if the New York Football Giants were at IMG Center? You'd be doing your show from there.
That's only if his wife let him leave the house. Don't kid yourself.
Right.
But Pat, it's funny, of all the things that it's not really football related, but Pat mentioned the 4th of July, and I was in northern Michigan watching some of those folks during a parade, and I'm just going, how many of these little cities may still have them if they're told not to? You just got me on a whole nother train. I'll spend the rest of my afternoon with that, Pat. But back to football. Here's the one thing David and I have been on. Pat, you've been there with us on this from the get-go, and you kind of mentioned it in and around it. But from the people you're talking to, from the football people, I am yet to hear. We had a former baseball executive on today who really talked about how to break down the game day. Pat, you are well aware of the timeline on a game day because you've worked in the front office for a team. But no one's talked about what happens when one of their players contracts the coronavirus. We all know it's going to happen. What are the contingency plans that you're hearing? Are they even discussing them? Because to us, that's the first question that has to be answered. And until that question's answered, none of the rest of it really matters.
No, I mean, if you listen to Dr. Fauci, he'll tell you he doesn't look at football and football games and practice as football games and football practice. He looks at it as society and the contagiousness of it all, if you will. So if a player or two get test positive, everyone thinks the test means you can play. The test means you might not be able to play. And so I think that the quarantine issue is going to come up right away. And then you're going to have to go, well, who have you been around? Well, I've been at practice every day. I'm an offensive lineman. I just got it. The 12 offensive linemen are always all together. They're in every meeting room together. They eat lunch together. They lift weights together. They practice together. They drive back and forth to the hotel together. And you guys know this, offensive linemen, they look like a herd of cattle. So if one of them gets it, I would think that you're seriously thinking of quarantine. We still haven't talked about the next dimension is when players refuse to play because guys have, and we don't even know the legality of that. What's going to happen? Is that going to stop payment on their checks? Can you force players to play?
Well, if I could interject here, don't you think that to me, and this I think is where both Mark and I are, because we've been discussing this with baseball. It seems as if the common sense approach is if a player says, hey, I'm not comfortable playing, fine. We're not going to cut you. We're going to, come up with a new reserve coronavirus, list. And 1, 3, 5, however many players don't want to play, they just sit on the side and then that's where they are. But they don't get paid. I mean, they're not playing. They don't get paid. But, we don't cut you. And if a year from now the coronavirus is gone and you feel comfortable playing, okay, fine. You're a part of our roster. Now we could cut you if we want. We've decided your replacement's better. But, Pat, doesn't that seem like the common sense approach that if there's a guy that says, hey, I'm not comfortable, well, okay, we get it. I mean, it's a worldwide pandemic. We'll put you on the coronavirus list. You ain't going to get paid, okay? But, okay, we understand.
I like that from the club perspective completely. I mean, that's how a club or a business would operate. But I don't know that they'll get away with it. What if the union, what if 30 guys say they're not playing?
Okay. They'll go find 30 more, Pat. Come on now.
Yeah.
They may not be as good, but, I mean, come on. It's like our business. Go find another one, look just like you.
Then they may not be as good. What you're going to find are out-of-work bartenders.
Yeah, but, Pat, realistically, do you honestly believe, okay, worst case scenario for a team, how many guys don't show up? Like 75 of the 65, 70 guys could actually make the final 53. How many of those guys are saying no?
None of them will say no, I think, at first. But the fear in a locker room can travel pretty quickly. And I think here's how I operate on everything. I never operate like it probably won't happen because I ran a team. And when you work up every day, wake up and say, it probably won't happen, it's going to happen. So you just don't live in the world of, I'm not going to deal with that because that's never going to happen. These things happen. The union hasn't spoken one word yet. And they're waiting to see what the policies are going to be and what the risk is to their players and the finances involved in that. So I think we got a long way to go with that. But I also think that players are clearly thinking about it already. And if their wives get involved, there'll be a whole other set of issues that go on with that. So they're going to look and say, how come I didn't get a check from the government to offset my lack of income. So there's a lot of things that'll happen with that. Yeah, players like to play football, but if 2 or 3 guys in that building get sick, what if one guy dies?
I know. It's why we have said from the very beginning, these leagues have to answer this question. What are we going to do when somebody gets it? And you have to face the worst case scenario. Now, my guess is if that were to happen, the league would shut down. That would be my guess. Because it would be a PR disaster to keep playing.
Well, I think there's an interesting point. So if the league is obsessed with starting, and they do start, it doesn't mean they're going to have a steady flow through of 17 weeks. There could be a stoppage in there for a month.
Yep.
You know, some of these sports that were stopped because it was their season, they still think they don't think, but they're trying to set this public image that they're going to relaunch here. You know, so right. I think football would be in that world. They'd say, okay, so we got through a month, October, no football. You know, I don't know if that's going to happen, but I guarantee you the league is thinking about every one of those things and how to do it. And everyone's like, oh, the schedule, that it's not flexible enough. It's going to change. It'll be a 12-game schedule. It'll be whatever. Here's the one question I say to you. What if we only get, and Jim Miller doesn't like this, what if we realize that, well, things aren't looking good right now. We're halfway through May. And what if we only get 2 weeks of practice and no preseason games? Now, I'd be tickled to death with that personally. But, does it make sense to say, okay, we don't really know who's who. We haven't practiced. Why don't we keep 60 players? And players 54 to 60 are on a 1-month contract, but they're part of the team because we don't know who's going to be good. At the end of it, we have to get down to 53. What about an adjustment on your roster? And it also could help solve the problem if 2 or 3 guys get the virus and can't play for a month. Is it time, you guys, to have a 60-man roster?
Well, could we get to dressing 53 first? I mean, no offense, Pat, but can we just dress the 53 to start with?
They won't do it, and I wish they would. But they won't. There's a whole group. There's a strong faction that won't do it. And
I know. But Pat, the other sports, in it, for what it's worth, and everything that they're proposing bigger rosters. Baseball's normal roster this year was supposed to be 26. I think they're proposing 30 with a 50-man taxi squad. So you'll have 20 other guys who stay in shape that are part of the team because they also think that there's going to be more injuries. Because guys we're not going to have as long to be trained and be at 100% when the season starts. And I would think that football would have to go to a bigger roster because there's a strong likelihood. First off, you may just need more guys to get through a game because they're not in shape at the beginning of the season. But also there's likely to be illness and injuries this year more than in past years.
And I specifically said moving to 60. I did not say having a liquid practice squad because the practice squad rules, those are free agents. So other guys can pick them off your roster. I just want to see if we get reduced. I'll tell you the other thing that's interesting to me. I was talking to the kid yesterday from North Dakota there. Really smart. There's such an advantage for smart guys right now because this learning via the computer screen, Kingsbury said it best. Yeah, I got it. I blame the coach. If you're worrying about your players, they're not really learning. I blame the coach who's asking the questions. I used to do a lot of seminars for NFL teams on coaching, teaching styles, and what's an effective teacher. Well, when you take these coaches that like to roll up their sleeves, get dirty on the field, hit a sled, yell and scream at guys because those aren't these guys. These are now college professors that are teaching off the internet, and you better learn how to ask questions, real questions, not the question most coaches, you got that right? Yeah, we got it, coach. That means they don't know crap. So you got to learn to do it. It's because they're not learning sitting in their house, no pressure, sitting there, having a cold one and listening to coach talk about, slide left protection. Everyone got that? You can't ask those questions. You have got to be able to confront Johnny with Johnny. Okay, they get to over front, over left. What's the check? You have, if you're not asking a question every minute or so on these internet teaching classes, they're not learning anything. So when they come back and we have a reduced practice time of 2 weeks, if that happens, you're going to find out that they don't know anything. So the smart guy or the veteran who's heard all this before, what an advantage they have. If you've drafted a dumb guy and he's sitting in front of a screen right now and you think he's going to be ready to play, plus be in shape. I interview about 3 or 4 players a day now, and I ask every one of them, tell me exactly what you're doing to stay in shape. I got a couple of weights in the basement. You know, come on. You can get hurt in this sport if you're not in shape, mentally and physically.
There's no doubt, and there will be such a mix of where it is. But, Pat, you know, David and I have a little joke on this show that we look for the 6 seconds of truth. And you said Jim Miller didn't like the idea of the no preseason, that you'd love it. What I read into that is that you've finally become sick of your training camp tour.
I love the training camp tour. Number one reason I go on the tour, Mark, is to get the new cell phone number of the head coach. I'm just being honest.
That's outstanding. That is outstanding. That's why we have him on the show. He's Pat Kerwin. He'll join us Thursday. All right. He's busy this Friday, so he'll join us in 48 hours. We'll get to Dak Prescott and a few other actual personnel matters coming up in 48 hours' time. Hit them straight.
I will. Be good, boys. Thanks.
Pat Kerwin, CBS's NFL Today show, moving the chains weekday afternoons on NFL radio. When he mentions Jim Miller, that's his co-host on Moving the Chains. And Pat joins us courtesy of Pinchers, Tampa to Key West and many points in between. They are open these days. It's nice to hear. Pinchers, because you can't fake fresh. I thought we got a few 6 seconds of truth there.
No, we did. We did, and I think, you know, as long as this goes on, we probably need, if we're going to do Pat twice a week, I think one day needs to be league business, football business, getting open business, and one about players.
We never have discussed where they're going to hold training camps before.
Started reading that yesterday.
I did not consider that for a second, that some of these states may not allow these teams to conduct their training camps on their home grounds, because I just thought that, quite frankly, fair or not, that they would make allowances for the behemoth that is the NFL.
Late in our show yesterday, it was on Pro Football Talk, and read a little bit during the day, and I knew Pat would go there because, you know, just thinking about where do the Vegas Raiders always hold training camp? They're not going to leave Napa. Mark Davis has a lot going on in that area.
Yeah, California's got a few teams.
Correct.
That do training camps there. I mean, heck, the Cowboys do training camp in Thousand Oaks.
Not this year. Texas.
We'll see.
Texas. They're
We'll
open
see.
for business, David.
We'll see. Miller and Moulton. The good, the better, and the best as we put this Tuesday edition to bed. Don't forget about our poll question. That Mark Miller, the David Moulton, millerandmoulton.com. MLB owners asking the MLB players to take another pay cut. The players are not inclined. Whose side are you on? Owners, players. Make sure you vote, millerandmoulton.com. Thanks for listening to Miller and Moulton, Southwest Florida's Fox Sports Radio.
Welcome to the program.
This is the Dan Patrick Show.
John Lynch, the GM of the Niners, comes out and says, yeah, we had some interest in Tom Brady. A conversation. Who does that benefit? John was in the media. He knows how this works. Are you trying to get Jimmy Garoppolo to play better? I don't know if this gets Jimmy Garoppolo to play better. If that's the logic, okay.
To ugly bag of water about all the people, because Mark, when you were out getting your coffee during the last commercial break, I was talking about how FGCU lost half their television audience and their games went from ESPN3 to ESPN Plus. The impact of paying $5 a month. And to ugly bag of water and anybody else, if $5 a month wasn't a big deal, the newspaper industry would be thriving.
Interest free for 6 years and worry.
It is.
And I get those of you that say Hulu, Disney Plus, and ESPN Plus for $13 a month. I got you. I'm spending $14 a month for Apple Music for my entire family. I spend $10 a month for Netflix for my entire family. $100 for DirecTV and $150 to the criminals that are Comcast so that I can do a Twitch broadcast for F's sakes. It just, every time another one. Like, yeah, eventually. And I'll get that one, not so much for the Disney Plus or the ESPN Plus, but I still haven't watched Brockmire, and the only way to watch it's on effing Hulu. So I'll get Hulu for that, or I'll steal someone else's Hulu.
Wink News. Facts, not fear.
Pool need a checkup? Call the doctor. The Pool Doctor.
Hi, Dr. Mark here. Heat pumps take heat out of the air and put it in your pool. They cost less to run than gas heaters, and you won't have panels on your roof. Special pricing, rebates, and free on-site evaluations. We're a family company. And for over 40 years, we've been doing business right.
The prescription is the Pool Doctor for award-winning pool service, repairs, and unheard
Mark,
of
I meant to say this on the air when we still had Pat, but
or
to everybody listening right now, it's why the aftermath of UFC 249 is a really big deal.
Yes. Well, he said yesterday, he's got, and Dana White's Dana White, but he was saying yesterday, hey, everybody's got to, everybody's calling me right now. They're all watching him. He knows it. He's been in contact with them. How'd you pull it off?
Well, it's one thing to pull off Saturday night in Jacksonville. It's another thing. Let's see between UFC 249 and UFC 250 how many of the people that were in that arena got the coronavirus.
A big part of enjoying a good
What do I have here?
are all the sights you see along the way.
Thank
So when
you.
David
and I both developed cataracts. It didn't take
Minute for
long
mommy, too?
us to do something
Done in
about it.
6
Turns
minutes,
out
sweetie.
Some of the best cataract surgeons in the world are right here in our area at Community Eye Center.
We really care about improving people's lives.
Well, I'm with you. I have felt that the local newspapers are charging too much money. I have always thought that the price point is $5.
They're excited.
And they've always thought they could go 10. And for whatever reason, no, we're not willing to go that much a month for our newspaper. We're not. I think $5, $4.99, $5. I think people would do it.
Here's the problem. You get rid of the newspaper, and you realize how quickly your life hasn't changed one iota. I know the Sunday paper, and I still like the Sunday paper, David, but even when I'm in hotels now, I used to always go get a Sunday paper and read it. I don't even bother that. I can get a good paper in hotels.
I understand, but you could easily justify it if the only paper you read was the Sunday paper, then you're paying $1.25 for your Sunday paper. Well, that's less than what you would pay to get it at the newsstand. So, or had to have it home.
Yeah, I think they're $2 or $3 now, aren't they? I don't know.
Yeah, they are. So that's why, to me, newspapers, they gave it away for free for too long, and to get people back, they needed to make it cheap. And like ugly, bag of water said there, you can't offer it for $2 a month for 2 months and then jack it up to 12. No.
Case of emotion.
You know things are really bad when Waffle House is closed and Mark Miller has a positive attitude.
Let's pump the brakes there.
With that being said, here's our brand new bright and shiny segment. Mark Miller's the good, the better, and the best. Man, I hope we get back to normal fast. This is weird.
You're live.
Actually going to go sports for the good today because I thought this was cool, and I always like when a player makes an impact in his new city in the best way possible. The big fella for the Jets there, Becton.
Yeah, the draft pick out of Louisville.
Yeah,
right?
He's been doing virtual visits to children's hospitals in New York pretty much every day.
That's impressive.
Right? I mean, I know it's not that hard for him to do. I get it, but just the fact that, I don't know, mom, dad, agent, brother, team, PR guy, someone put this in his ear, or he put it in their end. He just says, always good to make a kid smile. I just thought for a young man that's 6'7", 364 pounds,
right.
He's a beast.
He is a wall by himself.
You want to root for this guy. He jumped out of a pool.
Jonathan Ogden looks at him and says, wow, he's a big dude.
Yeah.
Right.
So I just thought that was one of those that I liked. I like to see when athletes are doing good things, and it's pretty easy to go the other way on this show. For the better, we go to Marco's Pizza in Colony, Texas. It was robbed on April 19th along with nearby businesses. Security camera footage shows the burglars fumbling around and leaving basically empty-handed. Instead of being upset, the owner took it as a sign to do something to help. He posted a heartfelt message on Facebook with an offer to feed anyone in need. In the coming months, if you find yourself in a situation unable to put food on the table, please stop by our store. There's no need to be shy or embarrassed. We'll make sure your family gets a meal. Right on. Right on. And for the best, well, we go to Pennsylvania, where a teen's been volunteering at a nursing home for more than a year, and she was heartbroken when the visits were put on hold. Hita Gupta missed the interaction with residents and knew the seniors would be lonely and bored without being able to see their families. So the 15-year-old started making goodie bags to bring them some joy during the quarantine. He puts a large print puzzle book, an adult coloring book. I'm going to just let you all think of what that is on your own for a second. And coloring pencils in each bag. She says it will help stimulate residents' minds and keep them occupied. Also puts a note of encouragement, which her 9-year-old brother helps her write. She's made packages for 23 different nursing homes in the Philadelphia area and plans on keeping it up until the health crisis is over.
Wow.
And that, David, is our good, better, and best on May the 12th, this long year, 2020. Although I did point out, David, during the break, you had gotten up, there's going to be on the Food Network on Friday, Guy Fieri, who, it can be kind of annoying, but I still like diners, drive-ins, and dives, is taking on Bill Murray in a nacho competition with the proceeds going to feed out-of-work restaurant employees in the New York City area.
1 minute.
Who doesn't like nachos?
And who doesn't like a nacho eating contest?
Well, I think they're doing like the beat guy, because Murray's kid's got a restaurant in Brooklyn apparently, so his restaurant's taking on Guy, and it's a nacho showdown, David.
I like it.
I like a good nacho.
Yeah. Oh, now I'm hungry.
I try to do this to you right before the end of every show.
You succeed, you blankety blank. You really do. 4 out of 5 days a week. You have become really good at this.
Telling you, the Sunday Fun Day at Wally's, it's a home run, David. It's just a short drive away for you.
Miller and Moulton. Seth Everett will join us on the show tomorrow.
Not just in the chat room.
No, he'll be on the show. And boy, will we get some texts with Seth. Miller and Moulton, thanks for listening.
Thanks, everyone.
We've got our good friend Tim
We will.
Meister, owner
Okay,
of
you
the
guys
Four
have a good
Meisters
day.
in
See you
Naples
tomorrow.
on the
All right.
Right